You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Adler and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 416, Obi-Wan Kenobi Part III. Tonight, we're going to break down the third episode, the halfway mark, if you will, of the Obi-Wan Kenobi's TV series, and it feels like it's already here. Like, it's hard to believe that we're like halfway through this series already, but nonetheless, we are. There's a lot to discuss with this episode, and I'm not going to pander or ponder anymore. I'm just going to bring in someone who we were placing bets on who was going to die first tonight because we're both battling through some yucky stuff in our chests and throats. Thanks to COVID and thanks to everybody for not wearing a mask there at Celebration. But anyways, Jonesy's here with us tonight. Jonesy, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. You know, what's great is that we did some rock, paper, scissors, and Albert won.
Yes. So I will be here with you.
After 3 ties. Yeah, he will definitely make it to the end of the show.
Yes.
Jonesy, I am on borrowed time.
Not so much. We'll have to see. You could be like the Grand Inquisitor and, you know, make a comeback here in the next couple of episodes that we do.
Did we talk about that last time when we were at the Resistance broadcast, live podcast, that there was this gigantic dude dressed as the Grand Inquisitor. And after the premiere, this was the day after the premiere, he had this crisscross of a Band-Aid on his abdomen,
right,
where he would have got impaled. It was just it was so beautiful. It was so perfect.
Yeah, he was on point with his costume updates the entire weekend.
You haven't lost a step.
I know. But listen, he was actually, when they took pictures and they were kind of showing, what was it in the farewell, what is it? Yeah,
he was in there.
Yeah,
in the closing ceremonies video.
Thank you. Yeah, so kudos to that guy for making the fun. He's a very tall guy too, like a very tall.
He was really cool, and the other 2 guys he was with were just as tall too.
Yeah,
I think one of them was supposed to be Dash Rendar, maybe, but I don't know. What
maybe,
the other was.
I was thinking Cal Kestis, but I don't know. I don't remember.
They look pretty similar.
I had a lot of Diet Coke that night, so it's all kind of a haze for me.
You do know how to party, that is for sure.
Yeah, right. That's me. Well, so thanks everybody, first off, for being here for the live show tonight. And if you're new to the show, I know we've had a lot of people that we picked up from Celebration. This is what we do. We break down these episodes. It's likely going to fall in somewhere between an hour and a half, 2 hours, given the amount of notes I took and things that I'd like to touch on and discuss and ask questions of. So at any point, if you guys have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll try to get to them if we can. And, certainly comment on anything that we may get wrong, which is likely to happen. So anything else before we jump into some of the news? Do we have news?
We don't have news, actually. So it's Thursday. So this is where This Week in Star Wars always gets us. But this was basically just a recap of Celebration. So we got away with one here. So we don't have to do news. But we do have a quick special thanks for Patreon subscribers. As we talked about last week, we have a new tier called the Plus a Little Extra tier. So a special thanks out there to Mike and Kathy for being our first 2 at that extra tier. We certainly do appreciate it. If anybody is curious about checking out Patreon, cantinacast.com/Patreon. There's kind of tiers for everyone out there, but you get exclusive content, and then also anything extra that we're going to throw out there, you will be the first to know.
And I've got lots of buttons to give away. So I'm actually thinking about mailing some of these buttons off to the Patreon members. Right. We didn't get to give them out. So, but thank you guys. Yes, thank you, Mike and Kathy, for upping your amounts and contributing to the show and help this stuff keep going for us. We do appreciate that very, very much. And I will get so I did update the credits with some new footage and all kinds of exciting stuff.
Ooh.
Well, it's not that exciting. Okay, probably oversold that. But the credits have been updated, but we are going to highlight this other tier separately in the credits. So I completely spaced on that one. It didn't do it, so my apologies. It's on me. But yes, thank you again for that.
And hey, quick shout out to the folks in the live chat already. We got Jay, Ken, Jonathan, JW looking for the Dragon Force reference that you made in social media earlier today. Music Train, Steph, Lauren, Dante, and then Neil Sega. Long time no see, man.
Yeah, wow. I feel we were like in the presence of greatness with Neil here, and I mean that in all seriousness. So
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, everybody.
Yeah, everyone, thanks so far for coming out. And if you show up as the show goes on, please, feel free to participate in the conversation. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, well, let's do this. Let's get into our breakdown, and then let's just start with now. We've not covered the first 2 episodes. You've not missed them if you've been looking for them. We made a conscious decision to come in and start with episode 3 because everybody's talking about it. It's not to take anything away from the first 2 episodes, but we will come back and record our kind of initial thoughts and breakdown on those 2 episodes. It's probably going to be a little difficult to do because now we've been with the foresight that we have of what's going to happen in episode.
We're going to get everything right.
Everything right. I was going to say there may not be as much speculation, but we'll do our best at least to kind of help break down anything that you may have missed or kind of give you thoughts on. I think there's just some stuff that's not been explored yet. There's some things that came up in both episodes or parts 1 and 2 that we certainly had theories about going into because we saw a lot of that footage from the trailers. And I think there's still a possibility that some of that could come to fruition. So there'll be some there. Just we won't cheat. Okay, how about that?
Oh yeah, we don't cheat the people anyway.
Yeah,
you get exactly what you expect around here.
But okay, so let's do. Give me your thoughts. Give me your initial thoughts on this episode. There's been a lot of talk about it, probably more than the first 2, to be honest. And I don't know if that was because the first 2 were aired during Celebration, and a lot of folks were just not available or on the spot to be able to kind of give that immediate feedback. With this one, we've all settled in. We're all getting over COVID now, and we've got time to sit here and talk about the 3rd episode. So what are your give me your thoughts on this one as you saw it?
Wow,
Wait, did you stay up for this one? I can't remember now.
No.
Okay, you went to bed. Okay.
Yeah, I went to bed. I couldn't do it. I can't pull an Albert Padilla like Albert Padilla can.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I think this is where, man, you talk about a jam-packed episode with. It felt like 2 different stories, almost like getting crammed into one, and that's a good thing. We really start to see the kind of the mental and emotional impact on Obi-Wan as to what the news from the 2nd episode has really meant to him, knowing that Anakin's alive, or at least what he views as Anakin is alive, and to see how that really comes together later on, especially the line between him and Vader, about what have you become. I can't wait to talk about that one. It's just so powerful. A lot of this episode was just really, steeped in this constant infighting of the Inquisitors, the vying for Vader's favor, Vader himself. I mean, of course, the conflict and the confrontation, but also this whole idea of the Underground Railroad. Was just so cool. And then to get a couple of name drops in the little whatever the little tunnel was called. With certain Jedi, and you can kind of read a few names on the walls, not a whole lot, but that was really, really cool. And that I lit up like a Christmas tree at the name of Quinlan, of course. Yeah. Quickly becoming one of my favorite Jedis that we know, really not a whole lot about.
Right, yeah.
But just from the material on Dark Disciple in particular, right, and amazing ability of psychometry. But I really liked this one. I thought it was really good. And again, we're starting to get more of that emotional weight coming from Obi-Wan. And about where his state is and why he is, or really just how is he going to take all of this, but also how angry and pissed Vader is.
Yeah.
And I think this is the Vader that people, very much saw in Rogue One, and is very much the Vader that people have been wanting to see at this moment in the timeline, and is very consistent with what we've seen in the comic books and all of the other material we've had previously. So I was really stoked with the way that this one turned out. Really liking where it's going, and we'll kind of get through some of the specifics of it. But what were your first impressions and takeaway from it?
Well, I was in awe, to be honest. I mean, just a complete awe and shock when we get to that scene where he's just going through and killing the women and children too.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, spoilers.
Yeah. Well, it says breakdown, so I don't know what you're expecting, but yeah. Spoilers from this point on. So yeah, I was in complete awe throughout the entire episode. But it had moments like that where it was really dark. I love seeing this broken down Ben Kenobi. I know it seems like Disney keeps doing this with, they did it with Han, they did it with Ben, they did it with Luke, and to some extent maybe Leia. But I do enjoy this. I do like this. And I think it makes complete sense, especially for this character. Of all of the other characters, it makes sense for this character given what he went through. And we've talked about this just recently on some episodes about what that was like, what that had to feel like. Excuse me. I think there's moments in here where he's reflecting on a lot of that, like a lot of the past and a lot of what had happened, especially in that conversation with Leia and Amidala and Anakin and that relationship. So I love the darker parts. I love the parts where It was a little bit, I guess, down and out because of Obi-Wan Kenobi. But then it had these really cool, subtle moments, like father and daughter moments, or just child and parent moments with Leia and Kenobi. And I mean, getting the background on Kenobi's family. I mean, that was another one that was just kind of like, wait, what? This is all brand new to us. So it had a lot of moments in there where it was kind of up and downs. And I love this. This was kind of like this was the appetizer for the big fight, right? We know we're probably going to have a bigger confrontation. It's following almost by beat the hero's journey in terms of where he's at. He's getting broken down, and he's gonna have to come back up here in a little bit, and we'll talk about what that's gonna sound like because I have I fully suspect that we'll hear some kind of Survivor playing in the background to an '80s montage where he's getting back in shape, and through the likes of either Qui-Gon Jinn or Yoda's teachings. I'm kidding,
Right.
maybe. But yeah, so well, he's going to get back, right? He's going to get his
Yeah.
mojo back. He's going to get his groove back, right? In just a little bit. So all of this is set up really well. I think a lot of people too. Just my last thought is, I know in the first 2 episodes it was kind of hit or miss. And it depends on where who you speak to. I think for the most part, everyone kind of enjoyed the first 2 episodes, but this one, for all the right reasons, really got everybody on board. It was. You can say it was just the fact that we finally got Vader on screen, and they did an amazing job with him. Everything from the way he walked to getting James Earl Jones's voice back in and being done by Respeech, or what's the company that does that?
Respeecher, yeah.
Respeecher. I think they did a great job with it,
Oh,
honestly.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
So all of that, right? Getting all that, and then plus we had the lightsaber fights. We got to see the Ignite the Blue. Just lots and lots of great moments. So I can't wait to kind of get into this. And I got a lot of questions too coming out of this. A lot of questions that I think we could either do spin-off episodes on, or just I don't know, wax an additional 30 minutes onto the show if we really wanted to. So, all right. Well, let's go directly into the episode now. So this is what we kind of predicted going in. We had assumed that there was going to be some kind of assembly montage. He was going to get assembled. And it was when that happened, and I think I texted you that next morning. I said, this makes sense now. I was always wondering why they were doing part 1, part 2, part 3, and not giving these titles episodes. And I think now if you were to piece this all together and watch it, it does feel like one long movie. And because of that continuation of showing where, we got the 2 pieces of Vader getting assembled and Reva saying that he's coming for him. And then we jump right into it with the full assembly, which was amazing to watch. I mean, it was gruesome, it was terrifying, but you couldn't help but look. You had to watch what was happening there. But it does. I love the way all these episodes feel connected. Like this is really one long 6-hour movie.
Yeah, very much. And that's exactly what they're going for. I think you hit on the head. And I think that's great. I think that's what this should really be. I mean, it started off as a movie. So it makes sense that it still plays cinematically as effectively because what is this going to be when it's all done? It's going to be in the neighborhood of 5-6 hours, something like that, about maybe 5.5.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not a long movie. That's like 2 long movies. But I mean, that's what we wanted from this. I think that's what it deserves, is give it enough time to breathe, but also have it play as a singular arc, because that's exactly what it is. It's not going to be anybody else's arc. This is truly Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's not, even though we have great characters in between, it really has to follow Obi-Wan and feel like his story beginning to end. And I think we're definitely getting that feel. And, for them to do it this way and not name every episode, I think is great.
Yeah.
Now, the downside of that is that we're not seemingly getting any concept art for some reason, which is very disappointing. But at the same time, okay. I mean, we're going to get it at some point, right?
I would hope so. I imagine maybe in the final credits they'll at least give us the concept art, a couple of scenes from every episode. I mean, these credits are long, right? So they got plenty of time to show us as much as they'd love to. Yeah. But so brings me to my very first question. I think there's been a lot of discussion here on social media about whether or not Obi-Wan Kenobi has lost his connection with the Force, or is he just rusty? It's been 10 years. For the most part, we know that he's just been sitting in a cave and living this dull, non-Jedi-like life, and so maybe atrophy has set in, or do you feel like he has been disconnected from the Force? And we see him struggling to speak with Qui-Gon Jinn. And so the follow-up question that for you is really about whether or not is he trying to commune with Qui-Gon Jinn for the first time, which I don't personally think that's been the case. It feels like 10 years is a long time for him to continue to keep trying.
Right.
or as he just lost again as part of him kind of going into solitary confinement, shutting him off from the Force, atrophy setting in. Now he's just having a difficult time connecting with Qui-Gon Jinn, and he's already had conversations with him in the past.
That's a really good question on Qui-Gon because, before we kind of assumed, and I think where I stood at least, is that I came into it thinking, okay, he probably was able to commune with Qui-Gon fairly early on with Yoda's guidance and, start that. But the more I think about it, the less sense that starts to make is that maybe he's tried, but been unsuccessful. And now he's getting more desperate about it. And he's got to overcome all of the trappings that he's into right now in order for that step to happen. And then we would get like a Qui-Gon appearance at the very end of the series, which is where I'm really starting to lean, is that he's probably not had, his training has not begun with Qui-Gon. And that might be part of the reason why he's in this, kind of, I don't even know what kind of state you want to, it's maybe a bit, self-pitying a bit in some ways.
He's in a Jedi funk.
A Jedi funkadelic, maybe.
Yeah.
So I think that might be one aspect of it. I think is that, we won't get Qui-Gon until the very end. I'm actually getting more and more confident we're going to get a Qui-Gon voice at the very end at this point. What was your other point there?
It was about whether or not this was the first time he communed with him, and is he losing his
Oh yeah, is he losing his connection and that? So I think he's probably, I view this as like Luke, right? So when we see Luke in Last Jedi try to jump back into the fray, we see that it takes an immense amount of effort. It's almost paining him, which is very much what we see happen to Obi-Wan when he tries to catch Leia in the previous episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of effort, a lot of exertion in order to do it. And I think that when you finally let the Force back in, it's probably a bit overwhelming and maybe not physically painful, but there is a certain amount of spiritual pain that goes with it as you start to experience all the things and you start to try to exert yourself. And yeah, I have a feeling using the Force is a bit like a muscle. You have to continue to exercise it in order for it to come more freely. And he's probably having to work a bit harder at it at this point.
Yeah. So my headcanon, my theory is that he has already spoken with Qui-Gon Jinn. Because if he doesn't, then I think it takes away from Yoda's teachings, right? Yoda was going to teach him at the end of Revenge of the Sith on how he could commune with Qui-Gon Jinn. So I'd love to feel and think that actually has already happened. But I also think the line I don't want to jump ahead, but there's a moment there where Leia asks him, what does it feel like? What does the Force feel like? And he says, have you ever been scared, been in the dark, and when you turn the light on, that's that safety, that's how you feel? I'm paraphrasing, of course. But I almost see this as a parallel to that, right? Kenobi is in the dark. The light is turned off. He is living he's been living through this agony of what he did to his friend, and now he's on the run. He knows that Anakin's alive. And so he is very much in the dark, and he gets even further into the dark by the end of this episode. And I think that light that has to come on in order for him to get back into this and get the Force, reconnect with the Force in the way that he used to, is probably going to be somebody like Qui-Gon Jinn, right? It's going to be a Force, whether it's a disembodied voice or it's a, it's a manifestation of some point or some sort. Maybe it's Yoda that he speaks to, but something in there, something has to switch the light on for him. It has to give him that spark to get back in this. I think there are definite signs that Kenobi is not the same person. Everything from his wit, everything from how quickly he used to think on his feet. We saw that in Clone Wars consistently, right? He's a couple steps behind. He's not as agile. He's not as deft as he used to be. You look at the fight that he had with Vader. Sure, he looked scared when he was fighting Vader, right?
Right.
Fear had crept into him as a Jedi, and that's one of the worst things, right? That's what Luke says. That's the biggest obstacle of a Jedi is overcoming your fear. And he was in fear the entire time. I mean, Vader was using one hand, lashing at him, and Obi-Wan's sitting there with two hands and getting pushed around with the Force and getting Force paralysis thrown on him. These are things that would never happen to Kenobi, right? He was that in tune with the Force. And so I think we are seeing that. Now, does this explain anything, or I guess does it poo-poo on anything that we know about the Jedi from canon perspective? No, not really, right? I think if you look at Legends and that material, I don't think that they've ever really shown that atrophy does sit in, and that somehow as you don't practice the Force, it does go away. I don't think it ever goes away, but your ability to do those types of things probably do. It's kind of like, sorry, I know I'm going on a little bit longer than I thought I would, but it's kind of like in the High Republic right now. We see the Jedi with these amazing powers and these amazing abilities, but they're so in tune with the Force. You know what I mean? Like they are guided by it. They're almost, I mean, they worship it to a level that we don't see in the prequel era, and certainly not in, the Jedi that we've seen after that as well. But because of all that, I think it does, much as like the Sith, as dark as they can get, and as much as they can get in tune with the dark side of the Force, the more powerful they become. I think this does the opposite with them. If they're more in tune with the light, it enhances their abilities, right? I hate to use the word power because that's probably not a good Jedi term, but I think there's probably some parallel there, or some correlation between that.
So I disagree a little bit on some of it. I think some of it is I think in Brotherhood, we look at how Anakin is trying to help a youngling interpret the Force and try to filter the Force. And it's with Obi-Wan, it's almost like starting over again. He has to teach himself how to let that back in and to be patient with it. And the part that I disagree, though, I think is that he isn't going to find the light from somebody else. He has to find the light within. And I think if you go back to what Yoda told, Luke on Dagobah, how will you know, how do I know, or is the dark side stronger? And how will I know the difference? Only when you're at peace, when your mind is clear, right? Mm-hmm. When you have that inner calm and you actually find that right balance, as he tells Rey, that's when you're able to finally have things make sense. And that's whenever I think for Obi-Wan, that's when he will be able to open himself up and commune. And we saw something very similar with Rey in Rise of Skywalker, right? She's basically begging to talk with the rest of the Jedi spirits and their Force spirits and whatever. But it wasn't until she actually gave in and kind of got over herself a little bit and just released that and accepted who she was and everything around her that she was actually able to commune with them. Mm-hmm. I mean, she was also partially dead, so maybe you have to be partially dead too. But I think, but I think in general though, you have to let go of all of that in order to finally reach that next stage. Yeah. And Yoda had to go through a very similar type of journey when it came to learning the path to immortality with Qui-Gon and with the priestesses, right? Mm-hmm. He had to get over himself. He had to accept that he was both light and dark. And the darkness was part of himself, right? And I think those are the things where Obi-Wan has had a very, at times, a bit narrow view. And I think the more material that we get with Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship, I think we start to see, while he's maybe not dogmatic, but he's definitely has a bit of a narrower view about how you should go about things, a bit more of a rule follower as he progressed through his career. I think we see some of that coming to the forefront here, where he can't get out of his own way in order to allow himself to experience the other things and really be able to welcome those in. And I think if Qui-Gon is any kind of way still sentient, which definitely seems like he is, it seems like you need your apprentice to find their way before they're ready to take that next step. And this reminds me a bit like you brought up High Republic, a bit like Bell with Loden, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't until Bell got to a certain point that Loden was like, okay, excuse me, now you're ready to take these next steps. And I have a feeling that's what Qui-Gon is looking for. And that's why I don't know that if they have talked, it's been a while. But if they haven't, I have a feeling Qui-Gon needs him to learn this lesson before he can get there. And I have a feeling it has something to do with the living Force, because that's Qui-Gon.
Yeah, he's all about the living Force. Yeah, no, in either scenario, I would love it. Like, I actually like the idea that he's not, but my headcanon says that he has. Either way,
I think it could work either way.
Yeah, exactly. I think it could work either way. And I want to be clear. I think Qui-Gon is going to give him the swift kick in the butt that he needs right now to say, look, get off your feet. Stop pitying yourself here. Be the Jedi that you've always been. And he shows him that way to turn on the light, not that suddenly Qui-Gon appears and he's like, oh, I'm, back to where I was. But something's got to happen, right? There's got to be, and he's at his worst. I mean, he's rock bottomed out at this point. He's burnt up. He got his butt kicked by Vader, and we'll get into a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the lowest points, if not the lowest point, arguably, for Kenobi now, right? It's like being kicked while you were already down. So,
right.
Okay, well, that was awesome. Let's talk about. So there was a couple of lines at the very beginning. Also, that we had a lot of quotes. There was the only pain will you find quote from Yoda after he had already seen what Anakin Skywalker Darth Vader at that time had done to the younglings and everyone in the temple. There was the "Don't make me kill you. I don't fear the dark side. I see through the lies of the Jedi," and then "He's coming, Master," which was the line that Reva had said. Now we brought this up, I think, in the last show when we were talking about just in general, we were talking about Obi-Wan, but they did change up the lines here. Like what Reva says in the trailer is not what she says in the episode, and that's not the first time this has happened. Star Wars has done this many times now. But I almost kind of like the lines more from the trailer than this one. These seem very passive. They're not. They don't feel as dramatic, I guess. How did you feel about it, or do you not care?
No, I think the quotes still work because I mean it's Obi-Wan. It's Obi-Wan processing everything as he's learned this information about Anakin, right? So we have to remember, and this is where the break of a week, it doesn't help us as viewers. We almost have to go and watch the previous episode first and then go right into this one without any of the with any of the recaps. You know, he just got here on the ship and he's reeling from all this information, and he's just got all of these things running through his head now of what has gone on the last 10 years and where he left Anakin and how their relationship, basically came crumbling to the ground at the very end, and trying to reconcile what happened and how did he survive, and then now of course he's looking for any kind of guidance. That he keeps reaching out to Qui-Gon in particular rather than Yoda, which has been interesting. But so I like the recollection, right? The memories, if you will, as to what Obi-Wan is going through, knowing that what Yoda told him ended up being very true. Yeah. But also that truth back on was it Ossus or something? Was that no Paulus Masi? When he got that information from Yoda, only pain will you find when he watches the video. I mean, that's what helps Obi-Wan accept the truth now that this is even a reality, or this is even a potential reality, that Anakin's alive, and then he's this monster. Because if he wouldn't have seen it for his own eyes, I still think that he would have been in a bit of a place of denial, to where he thinks that Vader's not, that can't be him. That just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yep. There's, excuse me, I do want to go to the chat. There were a lot of people chiming in on, Obi-Wan Kenobi's connection with the Force. So let me just read a couple of these. JW says, oh, that's not the right one. Sorry. He says, I feel there's a degree of self-confidence when using the Force. So if you lack confidence because of not using it for so long, I think that could impact things.
Absolutely agree.
Steph says, it feels like he talks to Qui-Gon as therapy for himself. That's interesting. It feels like he hasn't been successful before because he keeps doing it as a habit at this point. I like that. What if he hasn't, but he's waiting for it to happen, right?
Right. And think of your own personal things. Whenever you have serious doubt and uncertainty, you could be talking to God, or you could just be talking to yourself. You could just be talking to a dead loved one, right? I need your help. I need your guidance. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Desperation, right?
Right. Neil says 10 years is a long time to beat yourself over what happened, but I have friends that don't let go of that part easily, or the past easily.
Yep,
I would agree. And this is something that's more difficult probably for somebody like Obi-Wan, given that relationship. Dante says, the way I see it, Obi-Wan just became passive with the Force over a long time. Luke actively suppressed the Force, which ironically probably takes using the Force. I would agree. It does. You go into like low power mode, if you will, right, with the Force in order to turn all that off. It's like airplane mode. That's what he's in right now. Thank you. That's a nerd reference. Jeff says, I think Kenobi did not fully understand Vader until he saw it had an impact too. Luke knew what Ben Solo became. Kenobi had to face a nightmare he didn't really expect. So,
yeah, fair.
Oh, sorry, I forgot Tuan. Tuan says, I think Obi-Wan decided to suppress it as well so that Vader wouldn't sense him and also discover Luke and Leia. I think that's probably, I think all of those are probably right, in one way or another. But more than anything, you think about that connection, and we're going to get to that here. I don't remember if this is episode. No, it was in the last episode, which we didn't talk about. But there was a moment in there where he knew Vader could sense him, like as far away as they were. I got the impression that because he tapped into the Force or went a little too much, Vader immediately knew that he was alive, and I think we see that a little bit more in this episode.
Oh, we see it more overtly, yeah.
Yeah, he's like honing in on something. He knows exactly where to go because he can feel that presence. And being on Tatooine and going into that low power, I'm going to call it airplane mode, was enough to really keep Vader the scent, if you will, from off Vader. So
right
from Vader. Okay, speaking of Vader, Someone had a question in here. I don't know if you guys came in late. There was a question about whether or not James Earl Jones had voiced this. So yes and no. James Earl Jones is credited in the credits as being the voice of Darth Vader, which he is. However, there is a company called
Respeecher.
Respeecher, yeah, which uses like algorithms and synthetic AI and all that to kind of reconstruct lines based on previous dialogue. And I saw they didn't just take, it's not just Star Wars dialogue. They go back to the actors' entire catalog for movies that they've done, right? So
Right.
they probably honed in on a lot of the movies that James Earl Jones did around this time. You think of like Conan. There's probably what was it? Was he in The Color
Well,
Purple?
well, even a lot of the Tom Clancy books in the 80s and 90s, or I guess it was mostly 90s. I mean, his voice was still much younger at the time.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, they say basically sample that because they can run it through the processing to make it sound like Vader after the fact, right?
right.
But yeah, same process they used for Luke Skywalker, to where Mark Hamill didn't actually provide any new lines. It was just resampling of everything they had. So they definitely get the credit because it's like using their likeness, but it's their voice.
Which I
but it's
like.
run through the
I
system.
really liked what they did with this.
It sounded fantastic. I mean, we were
Yeah.
worried about what it might sound like, and this was that balance. I mean, this is the technology you need in order to. I know there's a lot of debate about the concern about using people's physical likeness as well as now their voice or their audio likeness, and the concerns that might come with some of that. But I think it's really cool when you're trying to recreate a character and do it in a very faithful kind of way in these types of scenarios where you really have to get it right, because if you don't, man, it's you can't recover from it if you don't get it right.
Right. So there's she's doing some FaceTime with Vader at that point. Reva is, and
You're doubling down on all the mobile phone
yeah,
references, aren't you?
exactly. I'm going to be throwing them out all night, folks. But there's she blames Obi-Wan for killing the Inquisitor. She says that what was it? She said like he will pay for the Grand Inquisitor's. I think she was about to say death,
Right.
and Vader cuts her off. But yeah, I mean she's framing him. Why is that? Like,
Well,
what do you
again,
think what's going on there?
Yeah, how petty the Inquisitors are. I mean, they're all. So again, we kind of talked about the Inquisitors a few weeks ago, but they're all vying for the top spot, and they will all literally cut each other off at the knees in order to escalate and to bring themselves into that position and to get favor with Vader. And Vader is not the Emperor, even though the Emperor set up all this program. The Emperor doesn't run it; Vader does.
Mm-hmm.
So Vader makes all the decisions, and so to appeal to Vader's, to try to be Vader's right hand person is the only way to do this. And now, granted, Reva makes a mistake because Vader, if she knew Vader at all, she would know that this is not the way to do it. Is to try to throw somebody else under the bus.
No, you don't.
It's going to mean no. Give him the prize that he wants.
Right.
And this is the part that it was a little inconsistent here of why she would throw him under the bus, why she would throw Obi-Wan under the bus about the Grand Inquisitor, that she thinks it would piss Vader off more. Well, no, that they haven't caught him is making Vader turn his attention to her, that you are failing me now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he is very results driven. And even when he's results driven, the what you want is not always what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So why she decided to throw Obi-Wan under, I think she thought it would help her station. But if she knew Vader as well as she made Obi-Wan believe that she did, and again, we still don't quite understand how she knows that Vader is Anakin.
Yeah.
There got to be something with the temple and all of that. But, yeah, I mean, she's got to know him better than that. But Vader's not going to tolerate this kind of stuff.
Right. No, it's not his MO. Right. That's not how he responds.
And he responded exactly in character. Right. I don't care about the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah. I could
Kenobi
care
is
less
all
about
that matters. Right.
Right. And she signed herself. I mean, she signed a deal with the devil for the most part because she's now. Yeah. I mean, he said that she has to prove herself. Right. So, I mean, either she's going to bring Kenobi back, which we know doesn't happen, or she's going to die. And I think she pretty much signed, her death warrant at that point. I don't think we suspected even going into this that she probably wouldn't make it out as much as we like her character. She just felt like the type of the character that would die a horrible death. But I think it's going to be at Vader's hands. And also about whether or not there's been a lot of discussion too about whether or not what are her ambitions here? Is she just trying to climb the corporate ladder, or is she trying to does she want to become a Sith Lord? Does she want to be trained in the dark arts. I don't know that we'll get into that. Maybe, maybe not. I don't think it's probably relevant or probably too important. We just know that she wants Vader's favor in some point, in some way. But to go back to your question about how does she know Anakin is Vader, my guess tells me that at some point we're still going to get this backstory with her. I mean, they teased the Order 66 in that very first episode. They showed us the children. We've suspected since then that one of those children is Reva. But there could be a moment where, she's still running through the temple and she escapes Anakin Skywalker walking in, right, as Darth Vader. So she's able to see, she was firsthand witnessing that he had, was now this force of evil and killing her friends and maybe killing the Jedi, and they abandoned her. And this is what kind of puts in it. It's almost kind of like I want to say it's Stockholm syndrome, but if she is infatuated with somebody that nearly killed her, and now she works for that person, there could be some kind of psychological, and I'm not a psychologist, but there's something there, right, where they see that person in a different kind of light almost. So again, theories, nothing really to go off of, but
yeah, I mean, we could probably toss 3 or 4 different theories out there, that at some point she's actually going to be turned into a good guy type of thing. There's some scenarios where you could probably walk down that path, or you have the other path we had discussed early on, is that she has a real beef with the Jedi Order. Something happened where she really got turned off by the Order, and she is on board with the Purge and hunting down Vader and company. Actually, when we get to the Inquisitor's scene on Nur, really curious what you saw around the room, but we'll get there.
It was horrible, and funny at the same time, I guess, if you've got a sick sense of humor. Okay. All right. Well, more on Reva as we get there. So
Ken had a quick question here. Didn't Vader train Reva? Technically, yes, probably. The Grand Inquisitor probably did as well. But yeah, Vader is in charge of the training program for the Inquisitors, so most likely yes.
Yeah, and I think we talked about, I don't think he taught them everything, right?
Oh, it's very, very rudimentary, yeah. He basically makes them ruthless and not weak.
Yep. Just enough to hold their own, but not give them the keys to the kingdom or put them in yeah, exactly. Put them in a position where they're able to, usurp him in some way. That's not what he would do.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about Leia and Ben, which is really hard to call him Ben.
Isn't it though? Yeah.
He insists on it. This is aboard the trade route ship. Of course, they were sent there by, was it Haja
Estri?
Estri. And this is where you get that whole analogy of what does it feel like for the Force. It was a beautiful moment there. There's some really great moments with, like Ewan McGregor is acting his butt off in this series. Like this, some of the best work he's ever done. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of his stuff. He's done a lot of mostly indie films for the most part, right? But even before he became big, I was a big fan of his. And there's really good stuff in here. Very, very poignant moments, very sincere moments that he's having. And I don't know if this is because, he's a father and he's, reflecting on that, finding inspiration from those conversations, but he just seems to get it, get what that relationship is like when you're talking to a child or a 10-year-old, as the case may be with Leia.
Right.
He fixes Lola, which was kind of expected now, which we got the full name. What was it? L0 LA59 or LA?
Yep. That's right.
Yeah.
L0 LA59. Right.
Yeah. So, by the way, there's all kinds of toys coming out for this thing. They were all over Celebration. There was a Lego set. There was a little play set that you could get and everything else. So get ready. It's coming.
I think, Hasbro's coming out with something for it too. Yeah.
Yeah. But they had that exchange in this moment where when they're talking about, he's looking at Padme and, when I think this is when she asks him, are you my father?
No, that was on the transport.
That was on the transport, sorry.
Yeah, that was a little bit later on. Yeah.
The back in Frick's little thing. Wondering if he knowing the daughter's
this one was the Force, what the Force feels like.
But there's moments in there too where like he gets caught like in the moment, like you can see him thinking about more than what she's asking him, and you got to wonder like what's going through his mind. He's reeling from the fact that all this is happening, and now he's sitting here talking to this baby that he helped deliver, or at least pass the baby on. Was there when she was named, knows a lot of details about her mother and her father. I mean, this comes up a little bit later, like we said, but, the memories of mom falling down pregnant with child and, Anakin almost killing her. I don't. You can just see it on his face, and maybe I'm giving Ewan McGregor too much credit, but it does look like at moments he's drifting off into these memories, these horrid memories of things that had happened in the past, and yet she's so innocent and pure. It's just an
Yeah.
interesting
Well, and again,
relationship there.
and he knows he has to keep hiding things from her, and she keeps calling him out on it too. And she does again later. I know you're lying to me, and
Mhm.
and again, I don't think you're too far to limb on that one at all. I think it's important for Ewan McGregor as an actor to know that Obi-Wan would have all of these conflicting emotions. And I think some of it is also where you see he does something so kind and fixes Lola for her, but he's always jumping all over her. He doesn't give her any benefit of the doubt. He gets straight to his frustrations really quickly.
Yeah.
And again, I think this, to where you were saying earlier, this is just point to the type of person he is right now, where he is really at his lowest and defeated.
And on the edge.
he's on the edge and just willing to jump to the negative super fast every single time.
Yeah.
And not to give anything the bit of a doubt now, and then combat that with Leia's over eagerness to do everything. It's probably a bit frustrating. He wasn't exactly born or built to handle a 10-year-old. I mean,
Right.
he could barely handle an Anakin-year-old. So,
Yeah, no, I would agree, and we're going to come back to that here in a little bit because I got a minor soapbox to talk about 10-year-olds in just a bit.
oh boy.
Let's talk about now the back I guess on Mapuzo, the music. So the Obi-Wan theme, like I don't know if I've heard it all. Okay, but that's not what I want to talk about. What I do want to talk about is
It's when the credits play at the end. That's the Obi-Wan theme.
when you hear it, right? But this is the first time when they came into Mapuzo. This is the first time that the music, with the exception of the fight, there was moments where it stood out there. But this is the first time the music's been there, and I guess it's worked because it hasn't distracted me or pulled me away or didn't enhance it in some way.
Right.
But for whatever reason, the sound, if you go back and listen to it when the ship's coming in, it's got the drums going on. It sounds a little different. It sounds almost.
I knew you were going to point this out this
well,
time.
it stands out, and I maybe it was just me, but I really enjoyed it. First off, this is not a knock. I actually enjoyed it, but then it got me thinking. Well, crap! I really don't know that I've heard the music or had the music really stand out like that throughout the rest of this episode. And I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing, or how do you feel? I know you and I talk a lot about the music. But how do you feel about it? How's it been so far, the soundtrack?
It's been there in the background, and I think that's where you can tell that the acting and the dialogue is good. Because if you tune that out, I think it's two things, and we've talked a lot about this before. You don't need music, and sometimes not having music is just as powerful as having a really powerful musical score behind something.
Yeah.
And I think in this case, with the dialogue and what's going on, you really want to highlight the actors and the dialogue and what they're saying and how they're feeling more so than anything else. The music has been there all along. There's very few scenes where there's silence. In this episode, we get a lot more of it than we've had in the past. But I think it just goes to where it just blends in so well. And you could say that it's not memorable and that's a negative, but to me, when it blends in and it kind of fits, I think that's usually a good thing. I noticed the music very much this time. I was like, Albert's going to make a comment. But I'm glad you liked it because I thought it was actually really cool. I like having a bit of a different theme to go with different planets or different locales, It really feels like something unique about it. And we haven't really been to a mining planet in a while since, I guess, really Solo. Right? Yeah. So, I mean, since then, so having something that a little unique and a bit of a unique take on music that we don't always get in Star Wars, I think was really cool and liked it.
Yeah, they were mining on Ryloth, I think. But that's not the same thing.
Maybe so, but yeah, not quite the same. And yeah, actually, Jeff has a good point there. The music when Leia's on Alderaan is absolutely delightful. That was one of the other moments where it was actually very noticeable.
Yep.
Was very sweeping and very elegant and, a classier sort of people over there on Alderaan.
Yeah, it's a really nice place. I have like 2 properties on Alderaan in SWTOR, and I literally will go out there because it's just so pleasant. They've done a really good job with that. But
knowing that they won't be there in a few millennia.
Knock it off. Yes, they will. That game is never going away. Okay, so we got Joshua Trees. I put that in the notes because this was the code name for the series, Joshua Tree. Right. And we suspected that there probably would be a Joshua Tree, and we got them, so they were there. But really what I wanted to talk about next is the vision, or if you will, this haunting image that Obi-Wan Kenobi sees where we see an Anakin Skywalker very angry, pre molten lava on Mustafar, Anakin Skywalker, right? He's got the cloak. He's got the same kind of crossed arms, almost very much like Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace, where he comes up and he's like doing that whole thing behind the Emperor during the hologram.
Yeah, it was very much like right after he slaughtered all of the separatists on Mustafar. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the discussion has been whether or not, I guess the question for you is whether or not this was, is this in the mind's eye of Obi-Wan? Is he seeing something? Is it an apparition? Is it the fact that Vader's coming and that presence is conjuring up memories, right? He's just the shadow that's this darkness is starting to creep in even more. How did you interpret that?
I think it's more the second to the last than the latter. I think, it's the stress going to Obi-Wan, and his brain is starting to play tricks on him. And I read some things online that, it's saying something to Obi-Wan's mental state. And I don't know that I completely agree where I think that line of thinking was going, but I definitely think it's stress and the still coming to terms with this thing of disbelief that your brother is still alive after you dismembered him and watched him burn.
Yeah.
And that there's any way that he survived, and that you would be haunted by that type of ghost and you would start to see things. I think it's more of a stress thing than anything else. I don't think his mind is starting to slip him at all or anything like that. We're not giving any other indication of that, but I think he's just really struggling to come to terms with how is this even possible? Is it possible? Is this the truth? And I think some of that is all still playing around and rolling around in his head is whether or not he can believe what Reva is saying is true. And I think deep down he knows it is.
Yeah. There's a part of me too that wonders if this isn't the first time, or I would say this is likely not the first time he's seen that image. The reason I say that is because when people go through trauma, specifically when there's a loved one that passes, I mean, how many times have you heard, like, I see this person everywhere? You get a glimpse of someone and you think it's that person, or you just imagine that person's there.
You expect to see someone, or you expect to hear them coming in through the door. Yeah, that's very common.
Even in dreams too. Like, you have these dreams, suddenly you're reunited with these people that you've lost, that have had, that had an impact on your life. So a part of me thinks that this isn't the first time this has happened. I mean, I would imagine he's seen that haunting image of Anakin for all the reasons that we've already discussed. Walking away, leaving him there, burning to death. The fact that everything that happened, and him falling to the dark side, witnessing the atrocities that he committed there in the Jedi Temple, on and on and on. There's all kinds of reasons as to why this has had such an impact on his life. So that may not be the first time, may not be the last time for Obi-Wan. But nonetheless, I don't think it's a psychosis, and I don't think there was anything other than just, again, the stress is getting to him,
and
more than it has in the past. And
that he knows that he's going to be hunted if he's not already.
Yeah.
And that just adds to it, right?
From there we go back to Kerr. This is the first time, I think. Nur. Sorry, I don't like Kerr. Nur. And this is where we get the fifth brother and talking about that he was next in line, which I thought was very interesting because we talked about, I think, going into this when we did the Inquisitor episode that took forever to get out. But when we did the Inquisitor episode, we were talking about how does this chain of command work, or the succession work, right? Who goes first? What do the numbers mean? I think I'm probably even more confused now than I ever have been. Maybe they don't mean anything other than, 7 died. We've got an open slot for 7. Do you want to be 7? Yes. Okay. Congratulations, your brother 7.
Kind of seems that way, doesn't it?
It's just a way to keep them all neutral in terms of who they are, right?
Again, assign them a number. Don't give them a personality.
Yeah, that's right. It's like the clones, right?
Yep.
And that backfired. But yeah, so I would expect, so now the fifth brother, for anybody that doesn't know, will survive this because he is in Rebels. So
just like the Inquisitor, right?
Just like the Inquisitor will survive this because he's in Rebels.
Right.
I still
definitely won't die temporarily.
Yeah, temporarily death. It's just a minor, but a scratch.
Just a flesh wound.
It's just a flesh wound. Yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts on the way this works? Like, I don't know why he would be the next in line. And he's very powerful, and we saw him take Reva and spread her arms out and slam her almost face down onto the table. So he was exercising his chops there with the Force. But
yeah, what's actually surprising me is all of the Inquisitors seem to be more adept at the Force than what they were suggested to be in the comic books, which I think is a good thing, right? I think it's something that they still need to be formidable, especially if a Jedi like Obi-Wan starts to regain form. we want to be able to see him dominate a certain level of quote unquote Sith. And then when we get to Vader, it's a complete night and day difference, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that it's good to see them using the Force in a bit more, not creative way, but more adept way than what we would have expected to, and especially in the comics where they seemed almost incompetent in the Force sometimes.
Yeah.
And kind of pretenders, but I think it's good. It makes them actually seem like a legit threat and something that that is something that Obi-Wan has to be careful about. And they're a very menacing Force. Again, no additional insight on how they figure out this numbering scheme or who's first or second or whatever in line, but I don't know if it's a 10-year thing or not. We don't really have any. I don't remember at least any kind of clarity around how that stuff works.
Yeah. No, never mind. I was going to bring up Austin Powers and On the Whole number 2 kind of thing, but that's not important.
That's not appropriate, Albert.
It's not appropriate. There's she makes a comment though. Reva makes a comment here also. She says it's after the brother says, you're going to get what you deserve, and so will I, or whatever. And she says, I hope so. I certainly hope so. Almost alluding to the fact that he's going to die and she's going to live. Again, I don't think that's going to happen because of Rebels, but who knows?
You don't think there was any other secondary meaning to any of that?
I don't know.
Tinfoil hat type thing?
No, I don't have anything there. I think
I see a lot of stuff online about it.
Oh, what is it? Tell me. I haven't seen anything.
Well, again, I don't want to, because I don't know how much is actually spoilery or not, but there's other theories out there that she's maybe not as committed to some of this cause as people seem to believe, or she wants to, we've been led to believe so far, but yeah, unclear though. It was a very interesting line, the way she delivered it though.
It was interesting. Okay, let's talk about the trophy case.
Yeah.
In case anybody missed it, but in the background, if you watch...
this is in the Inquisitor's room, yeah.
Yeah, there's all these Jedi hilts, and there's Padawan hats or something?
Yeah, there's Padawan helmets in there.
Yeah. So all of the relics and I wouldn't say relics, souvenirs, how about that? Yeah. That they've collected from all these poor saps, former Jedi that they've killed, they're just...
And it goes all the way around the room, folks. Yeah. All the way around the room. There are a lot of lightsabers just nicely spaced and very, very finely presented against the red velvet.
Yep. I seen, just to clear the air, there's been a lot of people that have been complaining that there's been a lot of Jedi that survived Order 66, and somehow that takes away from Palpatine's orders and his effectiveness and all. And I'm just... No. It doesn't, and this has been the case ever since. Go back to the old role playing game. Sorry, I'm going to bring it up, but in the old role playing game, it says there was never a number. The best the Empire knew was that they got rid of as many as they were aware of, but there was no exact number of how many survived, and it was unknown, and so that's why in the video game or in the role playing game you could play a Jedi character. You could have as many Jedi characters you want. You just survived Order 66, or that hadn't happened yet, but you survived Vader, and you had survived the Purge at the time. It wasn't called Order 66; it was just called the Purge of the Jedi. So that's always been the case. They haven't changed anything. They're not, diluting the power of the Empire. But you got to remember, at this point, there were a lot of Jedi out there. They were recruiting Jedi faster than they ever had because they were in the middle of a war, and they had to escalate these people to generals and other positions of power to fight alongside the clones. So, yeah, there were a lot of people out there that are Force sensitive, and some of them got away. So I don't know that it changes anything, at least from my perspective of how things played out.
Agreed. And again, we see just by the number of hilts in this room that they've hunted a lot of them down. And so while, a number of them may have survived, at this point, there are very few. And so the point is that those that are remaining are the ones that are very difficult to kill. Either they're very good at hiding, they're likely potentially masters like Obi-Wan and Quinlan Vos and Jocasta Nu and others. So, I mean, there's a lot of, that they got everybody in one fell swoop, or that they got them. We know that they started cherry picking because we know in the comics that Palpatine says, all right, Vader, the majority of your work is now done. The rest they'll live out their lives in hovels, and if they surface, we'll go get them. But we now have to get to what actually, ironically, Palpatine called his great works.
Right, yeah.
So at some point they were like, okay, that's as far as we can take it without obsessing over this, knowing that Vader was going to obsess over Obi-Wan. But yeah, some definitely survive. You can't get them all. Galaxy is a big place, like Neil said.
Yep, it is a very big place. Tuan wants to know, was there a grandfather clock as well? What?
I'm trying to remember. I think I know what he's talking about, but
Was there something that looked like a grandfather clock?
I'm trying to remember. But yeah, I think I know what he's talking about. I'll have to go back and look at that.
Okay. All right. It had to come from the world between worlds then, if that's the case.
True.
Okay.
It's Ezra's hand in there turning the time.
There you go. Oh, sorry. Stranger Things season 4 reference. Okay. All right. Haven't seen it yet. Sorry, man. Some of us have been real busy with Star Wars. Yeah. So I don't know what to tell you. Check your fandom, dude. Check your fandom.
Right. Yeah. Wrong chat.
All right. Let's. So there's a moment there that when they finally get picked up by Freck, who is voiced by Zach Braff.
I love Zach Braff.
So we've got both of them now in Star Wars.
One Donald Glove. Donald. Faison.
Yeah. Was in Resistance, and now we've got Zach Braff as Freck.
So excited.
He looks like Mole Man, like some mole-looking creature.
Yeah, it's based off a mole. Yeah.
What was funny though, he told Leia, "Don't talk," and the very first thing she does is start speaking. Like,
she's a great listener.
Yeah, she's a real good listener. She's 10. So, but I like this character because although I guess he lived. I would have pushed him into the red lightning there, or the red force thing, and just cut him in half too. But so I guess he does live. However, it was cool. Like we've talked about this many times, and what the Empire brought and the stability that it brought to certain people. Right? I mean, there are people that benefited from the Empire coming in. There are people that prospered under the Empire, and there were people that had a mutual, like a beneficial relationship with them, and this is one of them. Right? He was probably making a pretty good living. I don't know what he did. I guess he drove around. Did they explain what he did?
I think he's just a hauler, like a quarry hauler or something.
Yeah, right.
So he's like a truck driver. Yeah,
exactly. And he's probably making it, hand over foot, living there on that Mapuzo, doing that all day long. And it seemed like he had a pretty good relationship with them. They all knew him. Hey, man, what's up, Freck? And they were talking to him like at a kind of a buddy level. So I think it was kind of cool. I'd like to see that. It wasn't the everybody cower in fear of the Empire has shown up. Very different relationship with them. So there are plenty of Empire sympathizers out there like him as well.
Right. But again, we also hear Obi-Wan's assessment of the landscape too, that, there used to be people out there with families and farms, and now the Empire's basically strip mined the entire planet, and there's none of that. They're just basically little posts everywhere.
Mm-hmm. There's, they get into, and then they go by and they pick up these stormtroopers who are the worst stormtroopers in the world. Like these, I know people have given them a lot of crap because they didn't really put 2 and 2 together. And yes, I know you can explain. There's questions that have come up of like, why when they got a message that there was a Jedi on the run or possibly on this planet, why didn't it say there was a Jedi with a child? Or have they never seen a Jedi? Obi-Wan didn't really go under cover for this one either. He looks like he's about to walk onto the set of A New Hope. But
no,
he's got the hood.
Entirely. Yeah, but that doesn't seem like a totally uncommon piece of attire, though. What does Owen wear?
I don't know, man.
I'm telling you, I think what he's wearing is probably very commonplace. He's not wearing Jedi robes or a Jedi tabard or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't buy it. And you're starting to sound like a separatist. It's like maybe maybe Mapuzo is that's what they wear. I'm being cheeky a little bit here. But yeah, so they don't pick up on anything, and that's fine. I don't really have a problem with that. And they seem like they're just everyday workers who, aren't even really in the know. Like they're punching their clocks and they're in part of the union, and they don't really care as long as they get their check at the end of the week. But there's a moment there where he goes into this whole story about her name is Luma. I forget what his name was. It's probably not important. Orden? Is that what it was? Okay.
You know what Luma's from, right?
No.
So in August Cantina in Galaxy's Edge, there's actually a sign up near the bar it's in Orabesh, but actually it says Luma is the name of a lost Tuca cat.
Oh, is it really?
And it says if you find her, you can keep it.
Interesting. Yeah. I didn't.
Yeah, that's from Galaxy's Edge, though. Yep.
Okay, deep cut right there. So thank you. But when he's talking about Leia, and this is when they're in the back, this whole scene is just beautiful. Honestly,
and the stormtrooper was smart enough to hear they call her by her wrong name.
Yeah, he's like, I thought you said her name was Leia or Luma. He's like, oh, I meant Leia, her mom, and I'm having a hard time and all that. But this brings up a good point or good topic to kind of discuss. in that there's in my head at least, I think we are seeing bits and pieces of Leia using the Force, whether she's doing it consciously or not.
It's like intuition almost, right?
Yeah, like and we know this, right? This is what Leia had. This is why she was such an effective senator. It came up in Bloodline. We know from Leia of Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray. She had a very innate ability to be a diplomat, but the fact that she was Force sensitive heightened a lot of that for her. And I think we are seeing that. Like she was able to see and kind of discern when Obi-Wan was telling a lie. I think her intuition, aided by the Force, was enough for her to realize that, hey, are you my dad? Like she could see there was a connection there. She couldn't put two and two together, but somehow she felt there was a connection there to her parents in some way, and she wasn't that far off. Even though he said, "No, of course I'm not. I'm not your dad. I wish I could say I was, but I'm not." And I don't think that takes away from Leia.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I'm thinking about the meme you sent me earlier.
I didn't make that meme, by the way.
I know you didn't.
Okay,
but you sent it to me.
Yeah, it was funny.
I did.
Maybe we'll post it or repost it.
I posted it in Discord already.
I did, okay.
And gave you credit for it.
No, I didn't make it. I didn't make the theme meme.
I'm kidding with you.
All right. So the meme is, because we're beating around the bush. The meme is, she says, are you my father? And then it cuts to Kenobi like thinking, and it's a picture of Amidala, and you got to know the reference, otherwise this doesn't make sense. It's a picture of Amidala that was on the front of the what was the name of the ship the Bad Batch had?
It was the Havoc Marauder.
The Havoc Marauder. Originally in the pre-cut, like the rough cut,
pin-up, yeah,
was a pin-up poster of Amidala on the front of it, and there's a joke in there where Anakin's about to board, and before he boards, they point it out. They're like, "Oh man, that senator's pretty hot," and of course they're already in a relationship at this point. But someone had posted that picture as though Obi-Wan was thinking of that, and then he says the line, "No, but I wish I was." That's the meme. You're welcome. I didn't make it. Don't come at me. Don't at me. I promise I had nothing to do with it.
Well done, Albert. You did a great job with that one.
Thank you. It was not. I just work here, man.
You just give the people what they want.
Just give them what they want. But yeah, she could sense that he's not. So what I was saying is, I don't think it takes anything away from Leia as a senator, as a person with intuition. If it was anybody else, you have to acknowledge that she is very powerful in the Force in different ways, and it's very likely that she's gonna use that. Like, again, I don't even know that she's consciously doing it. I think it's just happening, and she just has a good read on people, and we see that. I mean, there's been countless examples, and we don't have the benefit of going back now, or at least we've not had the benefit of talking about examples in parts 1 and 2, but I think in part 3 we definitely saw that in spades.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's exactly what we're seeing, and again, it's almost passive for Leia. And again, that makes sense where she's at with the age, and I assume Luke is probably experiencing some sorts of things too. And Owen's like, "Oh, you just want to know if he's showing." Well, these are the signs that they are starting to exhibit some of these behaviors, maybe that they've done their entire lives. And so it just makes sense that she would have something. And again, it just fits her character. I think it fits very much Leia for what we know throughout her entire life.
Yep. Let's touch on Obi-Wan's background now too, because later on, just shortly after that, he's kind of talking to her and saying, "Hey, I know what it feels like to kind of not know your father or have these memories."
Yeah, this is really good.
Yeah, it's a very, again, he's like acting his tail off in this series, but he does a remarkable job of retelling that. And you can't help but think of Leia in Return of the Jedi when she's, when Luke asks her, "What do you remember your mother?" And she's like, "I only have memory glimpses," and that kind of thing. So very similar, very good parallel that ran there. But he's, so sometimes I try to imagine what he was like. And so he says the same thing, glimpses and flashes. He recalls his mother's shawl and his father's hands. And then we get I guess, I don't think there's anything in this. But I was a little taken back that he had a brother, which sounds to be like a younger brother, because he remembers a baby is what he says.
His name was Owen, by the way.
No, that was
that was Legends. Yeah,
I was gonna say that was Legends. So they were related. I think it was supposed to be. Wasn't it supposed to be in the script at one point, or was it in the script at one point?
I think it was in one of the early drafts. Yeah.
Okay, but they cut all that out. Too much nepotism going on in Star Wars.
Is there a thing?
Yeah, sure there is. But yeah, I really loved that backstory, and I don't know that anything will ever come from it. this is the kind of stuff that usually pops up in like books, you know,
Yeah.
where they make these references and somewhere down the line, someone will pick that thread up and kind of flesh it out. But it was cool that we got it here in a TV series of all things. But all right, so are you gonna jump on any bandwagons of whether or not his brother's out there? Is he force sensitive? Are we gonna see him again? Or is this just kind of a nice little nod to Obi-Wan's background and kind of giving that character a little bit more depth now?
Yeah, depth to Obi-Wan's background. If he was force sensitive, he would already been found, I think. Because you would go back to the family again if you're the Jedi. Hey, you got any others? So so I'm gonna guess probably nothing special. Is he alive? Maybe. That seems possible. Seems
Sure.
probable at this point, right?
Yeah.
But I
I
like
don't
it.
think
I'd like that we just give Obi-Wan a little bit of depth. And again, you kind of feel that wistfulness too of, I kind of wish I would have known my family.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's how does that feeling and those feelings, where were they when he was training Anakin?
Right.
That Anakin actually got to know his mother, whereas he never got to know any of his family. And we've seen this come up with the Jedi, really, gosh, in the Clone Wars, we saw it come up, and I have a feeling it's going to continue to surface throughout other material too.
Yeah, I don't know what the equivalent of like myancestry.com is, but it would be cool if he did some genealogy after this and decided, "Oh, what, maybe I will go find him. Maybe that'll be in a book. He goes and
Maybe it's in the
searches-
Jedi archives that Chakastani wouldn't let him read.
Oh, she's awful. She's just an awful person.
I'm
I'm kidding.
She really,
She's not
she was redeemed a bit in the comics.
in the comic. Yeah, she picked up that rifle. Where was I going to go? There was a question I had about. So what this does, though, for anybody that, and I don't know who's coming into this show and not having seen Clone Wars or know anything about the way the Jedi operate, but and I wish they would have hit this a little bit harder, and maybe they don't need to, but I wish they would have at least brought up this the way the Jedi go about this and the way they go about taking children, right? At such an early age, but it is
You make it sound like stealing.
well, it kind of is. I don't know, maybe not. I mean, we can talk. This is probably a show too, like. This whole idea that someone comes in and says, "Hey, your child's gifted. We're going to take them, and you'll never see them again." What parent is okay with that? And I know there's reasons because a lot of times it's the defense as well. It's almost like the X-Men. Okay, just stay with me here. Like these kids start.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, they start generating these powers that as a result of puberty, and they become dangerous. And so where's the best place for them to go, right? They take them to Professor Xavier's mansion. They can be taught how to control their powers and be a benefactor to society in some way, blah, blah, blah. And that's probably what's happening here to some extent. Kids these toddlers in some instances are force sensitive, and who knows what kind of, you imagine a toddler, they're already destructive in every sense of the word at that age, but then empower them with the force. And that's that. I would be like, no, take the kid. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm kidding. That sounds harsh. But
what if they start mind persuading their brother and sister into doing things?
Yeah,
I can't help that he's a nitwit.
I will not take a bath tonight. You will give me more dessert.
Right. I will. I will not eat my peas.
I will not eat my peas. Yep. You want to take a nap. So I get it. I mean, there's a reason, but there is just something sad about that. That they're taking these children like that. For Obi-Wan, I guess I just feel horrible because he's got these memories of his family that he's never known. So I don't know.
Well, again, and not to won't dwell on it too much longer, but I think the other thing is you also have to think about the prestige aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you are the Jedi of the time, for them to be requested and accepted into the Jedi Order was probably a huge honor to the family and a huge sacrifice too. But I think a huge honor that I think to your point, there was a lot of things that they're better suited for the temple. But at such a young age, it's difficult to say that they were really showing a whole lot. Although we know that some kids are very powerful from a very very young age, but
yeah,
I think some of it was also, wow, my kid is gifted, my kid is special. That the Jedi want them, and so as much as I love them, I want them to have this amazing life, and that they can give to the galaxy, and in this very unique way that we're not able to give that give our kids. So why shouldn't we? We should be very selfless in this regard.
Yeah,
and give the galaxy this gift of our kid.
Oh, that's very sweet. I do wonder how many kids got shipped off to the circus by mistake, right? Like they were shown they were showing really good abilities, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're circus bound, kid," and or worse, they went to go race pod racers and died horrible deaths.
True. They just clean out the latrines at Jabba's palace.
Yep.
Anyway,
Okay.
Freck.
Wait, no. Jeff says
Oh.
Leia asking Kenobi if he was her dad was a moment. A moment. The vulnerability was captured really well.
It was.
It really was. I wonder. I don't know. I want to bring up Satine again, but I wonder if at some point he looks at her and goes, "Man, I could have had one of those, or I could have had a child."
At this point, I don't know that he's wanting one of those, but yeah.
Right. Maybe not. Okay. What are we talking about? Freck?
Yeah,
No.
so they're still in the so they were in the trunk there.
The truck. They're in the bed of the truck.
Yeah.
Not in the truck.
The bed of the Corey truck, right?
Yeah. With that Imperial flag on there, which was kind of cool looking. It looks like
I like that it was hand drawn and stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, so they pull up to the gate there to get checked by the stormtroopers, and this is where we realize that Freck's not really as nice as Zach Braff. He's actually kind of he's not really doing the wrong thing. I mean, he's being a good citizen, I guess, to the Empire.
That's right.
He's still a jerk. But they execute Protocol 23, which I think is just, I don't know why they didn't say just call in the probe droid, but they had to call Protocol 23, which was bringing in the protocol droid to identify and do this kind of camera thing. I know there's been a lot of people too that have been complaining about like how did the protocol droids get there so fast? They
probe droids, yeah,
hyperspace, and come on, get over.
Well, they were okay. Yeah, go watch Empire Strikes Back and let's have the same conversation.
Yeah, but so yeah, the droid comes over there, sees that it's him, and then we see like in that moment, Obi-Wan was pretty quick with his little pew pew blasters, right? I mean,
that's right. Marksman, man.
Yeah, dead marksman, and we got to see him do a little bit more of his, what's it called? The fighting technique.
Terrace Kasi?
Yeah, Terrace Kasi going on there as well, which is just judo or jiu-jitsu in some way. I do feel sorry for that trooper that fell through I saw a post that said there was a picture of him laying there, and there was a little image that said I was like 2 days away from retirement, which would be really sad if that was the case. But what a way to die.
That was pretty brutal. That was a bit unexpected.
Yeah, I would have pushed Freck through that too, through the beams. So
just his snout, just to shave off some of the tentacles.
Yeah. What did Lauren say? Maybe he said, I don't have one. Oh, a child? Maybe. And then Ken says, how uncivilized. And he's referencing the fact that Kenobi reverted to using a blaster. But he had his lightsaber with him, right? So, but again, we talked about that, right? It's he needs to keep the disguise of I'm not a Jedi as long as he can until Vader shows up, and at that point,
right,
his cover's blown, right? So that makes sense. He would pull it out then. But they are saved by somebody. Now, there's been I think people are you got to go watch read the interviews. The actress name is Adira Varma, and she plays Tala. So Tala comes to the rescue. She's dressed as an Imperial officer. She comes and shoots the 3 stormtroopers that have them in lockdown, I guess, or on the ground. And if you go read the interviews that they've done with her, she is not a person undercover. Okay, she is somebody who has signed up to be part of she signed up to be a part of the Empire, and through the process of being in the Empire, she realized that things were not what she thought they were going to be. Right, so she got a bad taste. She did some horrible things. To repent for that, she is willingly staying in the Empire, but she is now when there's opportunities like this to undercut them or sabotage their efforts in some way, that's what she does. So to be clear, she does work for the Empire. She is an actual Empire. That's where she came from. She's not somebody who was undercover.
Right. And she doesn't say it specifically like that, but she definitely gives you that impression when they're in the underground tunnel.
Yeah.
And she's talking about, how she came about, and she says it very much exactly like that.
It's nuanced, but I think it's really cool to think that there's somebody out there that didn't just go, oh, you know what, I'm quitting this and I'm leaving, and
not a straight defection, right?
Right, it's not a straight defection. Like she acknowledges, well, wait a minute, why defect if I can stay here undercover and not undercover because it goes against what I'm saying, but still work for this effort while still being on the Empire. And so this is a person on the inside giving them intel who knows
Basically
what
a
kind of intel
spy
they're getting.
slash saboteur. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, it was she's a cool character. The actress mentioned, and this is not really a spoiler because you can go read it, but she says that this character has a lovely arc. So this isn't the only thing we're going to see her in. I mean, we got to see her at the very end saving Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it does sound like she's going to be in this through for the long run, right? At least 2-3
Right.
episodes more that we've got left here. Okay, then we cut back over to the newer strategy meeting, as I called it, where we get some details about Mapuzo. They mentioned the Vitrium that they're mining on this planet. None of that stuff was in the West End Games role-playing aid that we had mentioned, where that Mapuzo had come from originally. But yeah, I mean, Reva and the fifth brother are going at it again. They're like vying for Dad's attention, right? They're like, what was it? He was getting, she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go let Vader know," and he's like, "Nah, I already let him know," kind of thing. Yeah. She's like, "What?" But it was very like you said it. You brought her up. They do very much act like children, like and constantly tattling on each other or trying to one up the other person in some way. But would you I guess your thoughts on them, I guess, in that dynamic?
Again, it's consistent with what we know of the Inquisitors, and it makes sense that they're going to keep trying to undercut one another to get favor with Vader. Mm-hmm. It's all about position. I mean, as much as they say they hate the Jedi or that they want to hunt them down, you really kind of question their actual motives a lot of the time, because it all seems to just be a power grab, but really they're all just pretenders, which is why that Vader and the Emperor really don't give them a second glance. They're really just they're just a tool, just a means to an end that they'll gladly dispose of whenever they've reached the end of their useful life cycle.
Yep. They make their way over to the safe house here, and she mentions there's a pilot that's going to take them off world. Who doesn't make it? We get to see him laying there dead at the very end.
Yeah, to Jabeam, right?
Jabeam, which
is another mining planet. Yeah, so it makes you kind of wonder if there's if they're using the mining planets as kind of one of the routes.
Yeah. Which would make sense if you think about it, right? I mean, if it's a mining planet, that means there's ships coming and going all the time.
Exactly.
So it's a good way to provide cover and get people off world and on world and all that.
Yeah, you got all the traffic. Yeah, get lost in the noise.
Yep. But let's talk about the safe house, because this was we got some pretty good nuggets in here.
Yeah, this was pretty neat.
Mentioned, I guess Tala mentions that there's these safe houses all over the galaxy, presumably on these, like we said, these mining planets or other places. And that these all kind of link. There's a system of these all connected together, which they call the path. And I couldn't help but think of the High Republic, the path, but I don't think they were going there. It sounds like this was probably was written 2-3 years ago, and they thought, oh, the path sounds really cool, and the High Republic folks were doing their things with the paths. But
and didn't the Grand Inquisitor call it something different in the first episode? He referenced something as well. I don't think it was the path, but I didn't get a chance to go back and listen to it to see what he had called it, but he had called it something else, I thought.
I don't know, but when we cover the first episode, we'll make it sound like we predicted
That's right.
Okay?
That's right, yeah.
Write that down. But yeah, these paths all lead to Jabeam, which is where these people are given new identities. There's also a really cool line. Someone can steal this if they want to. I was going to put these two images side by side, but she mentions that there's good people in the galaxy. I forget the exact words that she uses, but that reminded me of Rex in the Bad Batch. Remember when they're talking about? He's talking about there's a lot of great people out there still fighting these wars and fighting these fights, fighting the fight. But it was almost verbatim, that line from the Bad Batch. And again, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it does reinforce that there is movement happening. Right? These people are starting to coalesce and come together and build what will become the Rebel Alliance very shortly here soon. So,
it kind of reminded me of Lando and Rise of Skywalker. There's a lot more of us, Poe. There's a lot more of us.
Yeah, but there's more of us. She kind of talks. Tala mentions they get into about the children being taken by the Inquisitors. Again, no mention of the Jedi doing this, but whatever. They mention the Inquisitors coming in and taking children away. She's speaking, of course, about Project Harvester, and this came up. We talked a little bit more about this. We won't talk about it in this episode, but we talked about it in the Grand Inquisitor episode, if you have access to that.
Man, I'm glad we did that episode.
I know. We look like freaking geniuses now for doing it. No, it was pretty obvious. Okay. And then we had other names. I didn't get a chance. I was too busy. I didn't get a chance to go through all the names and kind of decipher some of them. I don't know if you looked at it or saw them.
I got a couple. Yeah, I got a couple out
Well,
there.
don't let the big talking one. Let's not mention that one. But what are the other ones?
So another one was Uganda Ismarin, who is actually from the old Children of the Jedi novel. So deep cut Legends reference. Another one was Valen Halcyon, which is a really deep cut because most people probably don't know him, but they probably know his son, which was Corran Horn. So he also went by Hal Horn.
From X-Wing, or is it X-Wing?
So yeah, he was from X-Wing, but then of course Corran Horn was, very, prevalent in everything thereafter. But yeah.
But wasn't the kid named? I thought that was the kid that Haja had helped out. I think they said his name was Corran. I thought they were talking about that same kid, to be honest.
Oh, I don't know, but I don't remember. I guess we'd have to review chapter or part 2.
Either way, what's his name? Stackpole is probably like, yes, all my characters are coming. It took a while, but they're finally here.
Well, it was interesting. And a lot of them were really tough to read. Even if you blew them up, you really couldn't quite make out the lettering. But it was really cool. I think in general, it was just cool to see some Legends characters get a little bit of love. That they are floating around out there, even if nobody knows who they are. So again, just more deep cuts. They're fun.
But who's the name that made you squeal?
Quinlan Voss.
We bring him up on every series. Like we talk about, like, who do you think we might see as a cameo? Oh, Quinlan Voss. It just
makes sense with Obi-Wan. And I so much love how Ewan McGregor responded to the name. Like you could just see a curl of a smile, a sense of relief. Like someone I know, someone that I trust, someone that I believe in is alive and still. Yeah, you said, where am I going to find, where's Obi-Wan going to find that spark of hope and that light, right? And this is where Quinlan, knowing that he's helped, and Talos shares that he helps smuggle younglings from time to time.
Yeah.
That he is doing this. You can just see that immediate lift in Obi-Wan. And if you've read Dark Disciple, this is a direct correlation to that relationship that you learn a little bit more in that book. And I know there was some other material as well, but more so in Dark Disciple. And so that we finally get this, tangible connection between the two, and the response that Ewan McGregor does as Obi-Wan was absolutely perfect. Now, the real question though, Albert, is are we going to see Quinlan Voss in this series? Are you on mute? You're on mute.
I was coughing because I'm like dying over here. I got to edit that now. I'm going to say there's probably a 50-50 chance, for me at least, that we'll see him. But
either we will or we won't.
That
was very definitive of you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. No, I'll give him. I say if he shows up, it'll be the next episode, and we have yet to see O'Shea Jackson Jr. When he said Quinlan Voss, I went and looked at him. I was trying to picture him with like the dreadlocks, and I think it could work, especially if he's doing they don't have the face paint. It's like a characteristic trait of their race, right?
The yellow stripe across the nose.
And they've got different stripes in different places. But I think if you did that to him and you put the dreads on him, like I could see him passing as a Quinlan Voss. Now, and I don't get too excited because, man, I tell you what, this is like, I don't know, this is pretty high for me as well. Like, I mean, we just love this character so much because of Dark Disciple, which, by the way, I tagged Christy Golden and Katie Lucas and a few other folks on Twitter today and said thank you for the book and that we love it because it's just a gift that keeps on giving. So if you've not had a chance to read the book,
cannot recommend it highly enough,
Lauren. But yeah, go read the book.
Wait, Lauren hasn't read this book?
I didn't want to call her out, but yeah.
Wow.
I'll edit this out. Don't worry, Lauren. I'll edit this out.
No, I'm going to double down on this in Discord now.
Yeah.
Your Patreon fee just doubled.
But you got to pick this book up. It's so good, so good. Stephanie says such a great book.
I will drive it to her and hand it to her to make sure she reads this book.
Let's see. Let me go to the comments too real quickly. Dante says I yelped too at the name, meaning when Quinlan Voss was mentioned. Jeff, I didn't even see Jeff. Jeff says I saw O'Shea Jackson as Quinlan being thrown around. I am down. Quinlan helping Obi-Wan on screen is cool with me.
Yeah, no, I'd read that, of course, via some areas of the web that follow spoilers and things like that, that O'Shea Jackson is playing somebody else, but again, it's a character name that I'm not familiar with, so I'll have to see if that's a misleading thing or what.
Right. Yeah, they've done that before. Kind of throw the scent off.
Yeah.
How cool would it be to see Voss in this series? Way too cool. Steph says, I sure hope so. Let's see what Diego David joined us. Says, I don't know if that was mentioned earlier, but don't you think that Cal Kestis makes more sense to be in the show? Cal Kestis is interesting. He is here in this timeline for sure. I think had they not announced that the sequel would be coming out and it's 5 years down the road, that maybe he has a better chance of showing up. I think Cal Kestis has come through this, the path. Like, I think that makes sense at some point. Maybe he's had contact with Tala or Quinlan Voss or any of the other people that are helping Rex or whoever else is helping out with all of this. I just don't know that he would make it into the show. Let's see. Jeff says, either way, either we will or we won't is absolutely spot on analysis. So thank you. I appreciate someone
What we're here
likes
for.
that's what I'm here for. Voss looks a lot more like Jason Momoa to me. Oh, you just like Jason Momoa, Dante.
He's a
good looking guy.
He's a really good looking dude.
Yep. Let's see. And then, it's on the way. So Lauren did order the book, so it's coming. We could give her that. Could we see a Voss series? Says Tuan.
Don't give my hopes up, Twan. Stop it.
Don't do it.
All right, we got to continue.
You give me hope.
Don't. That's right, because then you will take it away.
Yeah.
All right, we got to keep moving forward.
I know. Okay, we got to move forward here. What are we on? Oh yeah, we're an hour and a half. Okay, we're good. But yeah, there's a lot of great moments here. We got to see the Jedi symbol, which later on, just to kind of steal my own thunder, when Reva comes in there and she sees it, like you can see the look on her face, like she's disgusted, or like there's like a visceral reaction on her face,
Right.
seeing that someone had carved in that
Yeah,
mark.
and that's very much where my comments earlier came from. Of like, there's got to be something deeper to Reva about her disdain for the Jedi.
Yeah.
There's just got to be something else there.
It just keeps coming up, right? We keep getting bits and pieces that there's more here to this story. So
Absolutely.
we'll see. Then let's talk about the quote. Obi-Wan reads the quote that Quinlan Voss wrote on there. Only when the eyes are closed can you truly see. What are your thoughts on that? I know there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of theories as to what that line means. People have taken that very literal. Some have taken it to be more spiritual, metaphorically in some way. But your thoughts on that quote? What's he talking about there?
Right. I mean, yeah, there's clear connections, right, with what we've seen throughout Star Wars, not even just the trilogies, but all of Star Wars, right? The blast shield down. How am I supposed to fight? Your eyes can deceive you. You don't trust them. And again, I think it's also one of these things of I remember more towards Last Jedi, right? When it's you're probably much better remembering this quote than I am. What Poe recalls when he's talking to Holdo about what Leia always said, right? That if you can't see through the night, you'll never make it through the day, or
Right.
or something like that with the sun.
But
Basically, it's this idea though of if you don't have faith, and if you don't, you have to believe in order to make it to the other side. You have to make it through the darkest of night in order to come out on the dawn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things. But I think with Obi-Wan in particular, what it's really meaning is that he's got to let go of all of this regret and all of this self-pity and guilt, right? And he's got to finally just release all of this so he can finally move forward and see what he needs to see next. So I view it more as that, really truly more metaphorically than, only when your eyes are closed. And again, but with the Jedi, that makes a lot of sense though, right?
Mm-hmm.
You close your eyes to meditate. You close your eyes to see things and feel things that you wouldn't normally ever do. So it could also just be a direct correlation to how they view the Force as well. You're on mute again.
I gotta quit doing that. I keep coughing, so I apologize. But I wonder if this is going to come up a little bit later too, because it's a good quote. Don't get me wrong, and I think it certainly evokes like visions of Jedi meditating, right? Qui-Gon Jinn meditating before his fight with Darth Maul, although that didn't really go very well. The lesson of Luke.
He was preparing himself to die.
Yeah, that's what it was. Right, he was accepting death. Luke and Ray on Actu, right, and she was closing her eyes, and it was only after that part that she was able to kind of get in touch with the Force and feel the balance and learn the lesson. So I think visually we think of things in Star Wars when that's said. It was interesting though, if you put the subtitles on, they did make that a proper noun. So it says the way is a proper noun. And I don't know again if they're alluding to anything. Maybe it was, I don't know if they pulled that from the script or just happened to be that by accident. Maybe there's nothing there though. But I do wonder too if this is going to be a lesson that comes up, and I don't really have a good theory as to what it is just yet. Now, especially when you think about like Quinlan Vos coming in, does he utter that line, and is there some lesson that he helps Obi-Wan learn about closing his eyes and truly seeing? It brings back the earlier quote about what the Force was like in the darkness and having the lights turned off. Right.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing said in a different way, if you will. But it was interesting that they at least put it in there. So I just feel like they focused on it a little too much. By the way, I want to mention too, Tala had the same reaction. Like you see that little smirk, that little smile from Kenobi when he mentions Quinlan Vos, but then you see Tala as well when she's talking about it. So
she's so happy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and this character is so cool. Like he's like,
we shipping him?
No, I'm not shipping him yet. But he's like he's from California and pretty laid back.
He's on the rebound from Asajj Ventress still.
Yeah. That poor guy got his heart broken. Although she saved his life, right, for her own. Oh,
True.
Spoilers! Oh, dang it! Sorry. Okay, sorry.
Well, in your defense, the book is like 10 years old. So
true, right? If you haven't read the book yet, it's not my fault.
Right, but so I do like it though, because also if you think about who wrote it, Voss, right? Only when the eyes are closed can you truly see. With someone who has psychometry,
yeah, his power, right?
Right, yeah, his ability is very much of. You really see everything through your mind's eye, and you experience in that way.
Yep. At least he didn't write, cool dude. Have a great summer. See you next year.
Right. Stay cool.
Stay cool. He gave us something more meaningful on the wall there. All right, let's move on and let's talk just quickly about Tala. And she's putting on the blaster, and then you got Leia looking at her, going, "Whoa, that's cool. Can you teach me how to shoot?" And there was that comment about she's going to make a good fighter someday.
Right.
Which is very, very, very much true. The first thing I thought of was, Leia sitting there with her blaster. Well, one, saving their, butts when they were on the Death Star, but then flash forward into Return of the Jedi when she had her blaster ready and Han says the, I love you, I know kind of line, all that, right? So, but yeah, we got there was a mention in there where Ben says, call me Ben. I don't want to be known as Obi-Wan these days. Again, still, I don't know if he's in denial or whatever it is, identity crisis. But then he starts to feel like you can see it on his face. And they don't really dig into this more. I think we all kind of know what's going on, but he starts getting very sick. Like he's getting physically ill, looking around. And I think this is clearly the presence of Vader coming onto the planet, right? He's landed and it's that
cold. It's that coldness of the dark side, which we see. But yeah, this is a little bit different way that we've seen it. But most people are like, I remember Ezra and Rebels, right? It's so cold. But for him, it's actually, right. It's probably not so much the dark side and the cold void of that. With Obi-Wan, it's probably the pain that he senses off of Anakin, which might be physically, paining him himself.
Yeah. So Vader is in town. I will say the only thing that it's a nitpick. This did not change because I love this episode. It didn't change anything, but the minute they go into the safe house, it's completely daytime, and then when Vader shows up, it's like dark, like it's nighttime. So I don't. Yeah, maybe it's the
sun has set quickly,
right,
on this planet
with Vader approaching. So maybe Vader brought the darkness. I don't know. That's how I was interpreting.
He blacked out the sun when he walked up.
Right, something happened.
I don't like the sun.
But he got really dark really fast. So watch it. It's kind of funny. It doesn't change anything though. But yeah, Vader's in town. And he's already walking through the streets. He's got the Inquisitors with him, and he stops. And this is what we were talking about earlier, where he is zoning in. Like he can sense Obi-Wan, and it's whether it's the fear, which I think is part of it, because I think you look at that fight, and half the time Obi-Wan looks scared out of his mind. Right. One, the presence of just Anakin still being alive and being this more machine than man, and that whole question of look what have you become kind of thing. But on top of that, doesn't have his A game with him, right? So he's fearing for his life there. But I said that's to me that's what Vader's focusing on, as well as just the relationship, that presence, that connection that they used to have. There's got to be traces, remnants of that still that exists, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and Vader knows exactly how to pull all of this out of Obi-Wan. Or, I mean, it's very much like what the Grand Inquisitor said, the Jedi Code's like an itch. They can't help themselves,
Yeah.
and so, but yeah, it's instantaneous. As soon as, I mean, and they do a good job of it. You see the wince from Obi-Wan and, the snap to attention of Vader, which I think is just, again, excellent. Not that Vader wouldn't know it with any other Jedi, but that it's Obi-Wan. You just know that there's an extra layer and there's an extra special connection there that zeroes him in 100%. And then Vader just does what Vader does. And he's absolutely brutal, hauling people out of their spaces, out of their hovels, breaking a kid's neck just for running outside, dragging a woman in the dirt. I mean, whatever it takes to get him to come out or to root him out, he's going to do. And again, this is the Vader that everyone wants to see, right? This is the Vader that he is driven by pure hatred, for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and everyone will suffer until he gets what he wants.
Yeah. It was dark. Like, this was pretty dark stuff, especially that child, right? I mean,
that was unexpected. Yeah.
Yeah, because not only, I mean, he force pushed the kid into the wall, and you think, oh, okay, he's cutting him some slack. And then he just like snaps his neck to the right, which kudos to that kid for doing that, as realistic and as it looked, and the sound kind of being all perfect there.
The kid's mother was like right there too. It was so sad.
So the lesson is, if Vader is ever like walking
just
down
shut up and duck.
an aisle,
duck and cover.
Right. Like, you don't ever want to be on the receiving end. If Vader's walking towards you, you need to go the other way. Like, don't go to the sides, don't go anywhere. Just go far, far away as much as possible. But that whole scene was very brutal, and it was very sobering. Like, up until that moment, I was all excited, and we had all these moments. Oh, Quinlan Voss, and then I was like, whoa, what the heck? This is Vader again. It was shades of Rogue One Vader. It's exactly where he's at. This is the stuff that you see in the comics. I think they do a really good job of getting into the head of Vader, of course, and where he's at in his headspace. But yeah, he's angry. He's had a lot of loss. He doesn't like himself. He hates everything about life and the Empire, and the fact that he's being tortured psychologically, physically, mentally by Palpatine all the time. It doesn't stop. I mean, this is what you're seeing. You're seeing all of that manifest here. And at the crux of it all, right, the origin of all this for him is Obi-Wan Kenobi. And to your point, he's going to do whatever he is, right? It's he's scratching that itch, or he's I guess touching the itch, or urging the itch for Kenobi to scratch it. So it was pretty brutal. I really enjoyed it.
And this is where it was really perfect for him, and important for us to see him being assembled too, because you can see just how much pain he's got to be in just being put back together. Mm-hmm. I mean, the plate's got, injector points that go into his body. Yeah. We know from, if you've seen any of the props and stuff, there are spikes around some of the materials that attach to it, especially up around his respirator and everything else, to keep it in place, that it's embedded into his skin. We see all of the repairs that have been done to his back, and how they're plugging into his lungs. I mean, every day is suffering for Darth Vader. Yep. And for that to come through so well. And Lauren actually said that, Hayden in the suit, Vader suit, was perfection. I'm actually curious if there was one moment in some of the dialogue where it didn't quite all sound like James Earl Jones to me. And I'm trying to remember what the exact quote was, but it was almost like Hayden Christensen may have had a blend of his voice in there as well, kind of like what we have with Matt Lanter, but not near as obvious in that case, because something did sound just a little bit weird. Also, there's another time I want to get your thoughts on too, with Obi-Wan. But yeah, but it was just incredible. But I think that was why it was so important to see him being put together, because when you hear how he speaks and the amount of just disdain dripping from his voice, you just know every inch of him feels all of this all the time. And now he has someone to completely direct it at, of who he believes deserves it.
Yeah, for sure. Jeff says, I think it being hated made the brutality even more vicious. He was going around smiling, talking about how happy he was to be back in. Then, like 1 minute on screen, he snaps a kid's neck. So, yeah, I thought he did a good job. Let's talk just quickly about that, since he brought it up. The movements of Vader, any issues there? Like there were times where he moved like Hayden. How about that? Okay.
Yeah.
Did he move like Vader all the time? No. Did it take anything away from it? No. And I don't think people are really making a big deal about it. I think he did an admirable job of honestly giving that physical presence that David Prowse brought to the character.
Right.
And it did look like he did his homework. Just some of the movements were like perfect. Like he nailed it, did his research. And then other ones felt like they were more Hayden than Darth Vader, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, it does. And I actually, the one thing I always notice, so I think some of the movements, you definitely know it's not the same Vader, person in the costume Vader.
Mm.
But at the same time, I think the only thing I really noticed that's different are the hands. The hands always seem just a little bit small. But that's about the only thing I noticed that's really different from afar, like when he does hand motions and whatnot. But I think overall it worked. I mean, hell, you and I are having this conversation, so clearly it worked, right? Of how brutal he came across. And again, the characterization of it and the way that the dialogue worked, those are the things that really make it. Nothing broke this scene. When you're watching it, you are just completely enthralled and your jaw is probably hanging wide open. Like, what the heck am I watching?
As usual, Dante's come in with the perfect comment. To me, it was like Peter Mayhew and Jonas. I can tell when each is in the suit, but they both portrayed Chewbacca well. That's it. That's what we meant to say. And I read the comments wrong or the show notes wrong. Just says they don't call him Small Hand Hayden for nothing. So I didn't know that was his name. That's interesting. Poor guy. Okay, so
I don't think that's a thing.
No, I'm just kidding. When he's snapping next, they cut over to Reva, and she's almost got like this bloodlust look on her face, like she's enjoying what he's doing to those people. And then on top of that, when after he kind of locks in on where he thinks Obi-Wan runs off, right, and he kind of goes in, Reva almost jumps in as well, like she was going to assist him in some way, and then that's when the fifth brother holds her back and tells her, "Hey, that's not what we were told to do." What was it? I don't know. Recon. Oh, I forget what it was. It wasn't go help Vader.
Right. Yeah. Sweep the city and look for stragglers, basically, or anybody that's helping.
Yeah. So I guess the question I have is, why was she relishing in that moment? And two, what was she going to do? Did she feel like it was it was in her right or her role to go help Vader take down Kenobi, or was this part of that whole personal vendetta? Is there still something there that was manifesting in some way where she felt, empowered or inclined, like this is my fight as well?
That's a good question. I don't know, because when Vader's on the warpath, I thought he made himself pretty clear, that Kenobi is his, right? I mean, he's the prize. And when he's on the scene, he's the hunter. No one else is. So I guess it's maybe this continued, push and want to maybe please him or just be involved and feel like they're partners. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, that someone thinks that they can partner up with Darth Vader. I mean, Dr. Afrin learned that lesson pretty fast.
It doesn't work very well.
It doesn't work at all. Yeah. And so that the Inquisitors don't understand that is a bit surprising, but it was actually very curious. Like, I would just be watching the master at work, basically.
Yeah.
You be there to support him whenever but you follow his orders, whatever they were. So that was a bit odd to see her trying to chase after it.
Maybe she just got caught up in the moment. Yeah. Think of like, you watch like NBA games and they're like, there's that one guy who didn't play the entire game, but then they make like a big 3-point shot right at the last second. He jumps off the bench like he made he's jumping around like, yeah, all right. He gets all caught up in the moment. I think that's kind of what Reva was doing here. She just got emotional and got caught up in it. I don't, in all seriousness, I wonder though, if they are going to, it just feels like there's something there again. I don't know. It feels like they're picking at something that will be explained here later on. I feel like we do need more background on Reva at this point. Like, it's just, there's so much it has to.
I agree. Yeah, there's more there. They've just got to tell us it.
Yeah. Or maybe she had to pee, is what Dante says.
Dante, come
on. That's fine. We like.
They don't pee in Star Wars.
Yeah, they don't do that.
Unless you're molting, I guess.
That's a Mando reference. Okay, so then let's get into the hunt, which is what I called it here. We talked about Obi-Wan, or Obi-Wan decides that he's going to run out of town, right? Because that's probably the best thing to do, to draw him out of the town so that more innocent people.
I love how every time they have a standoff, Obi-Wan's like, nope.
Yeah.
Just runs off.
Yeah, he does it like 2 or 3 times where it's like, ha, and then he takes off and goes the other way. I was not expecting Vader to ignite his lightsaber in that moment. I don't know why. And I mentioned this was a jump scare. There's just something about, and it's the image that we used on the background here. You can see it there. But I was focused on Obi-Wan, and I saw Vader come into the shot. But when that lightsaber ignited, I don't know if they cranked the volume up or what, or maybe the fact that it was like 2:30 in the morning, 2:45 in the morning.
You were falling asleep. You didn't realize it.
No, I didn't. I wasn't falling asleep. That's for sure. But it scared the crap out of me. As I posted, I soiled my pants. Not really, but it came pretty close. But we got some dialogue here. He says, "You cannot run, Obi-Wan." This is then where Obi-Wan ignites his blue lightsaber, and we get this just amazing line of, "What have you become?" And his response is, "I am what you made me."
Oh, but the anger and the way that it's delivered, though, is just incredible. And this is where I'm wondering if Hayden had to have something in there to get that type of emotion behind it, because it just seemed like there was if they did that 100% with AI, holy smokes, that's impressive to get that kind of expression out of it. And maybe we're just reading too much into it because this is what we do, and we hear things like this, and with a voice that deep and that resonant, you just apply things that maybe don't exist. But man, the anger, I am what you made me. I mean, you could just hear it. Yeah, man, it just gave me chills just thinking about it.
Yeah, there's I don't know, when we don't have the insight into how they do this, but maybe it is one of these things where they do record. They start with the baseline voice, right, of somebody like Hayden delivering the line, get the emotion there, and they just overlay that with the stuff. I don't know. I'm trying to find a way for them to have gotten that kind of a emotion out of it, and other than it being,
it's witchcraft and wizardry. That's what it is.
Yeah, it probably is. But you're right. It was a very powerful delivery of that line for a computer. Otherwise, kudos to Hayden for the way he delivered it. But yeah, that one cuts deep. No pun intended. I am what you made me. And we see that comes up a little bit later, right? When dragging to the fire and all that. I mean, he's trying to make him in his own image.
Oh my gosh!
In some ways. So, but yeah, this is where Obi-Wan runs away at that moment. Excuse me. And then we get to Reva finding the path. I think a lot of people have been asking, like, how did she know? And I just chalk it up to her being force sensitive, right? We don't know the extent of her powers. We know that she's able to read minds, but she probably has other abilities as well, right? She can track fear. We saw her trying to track Obi-Wan back on Dayu, so she may have other abilities that we're just not aware of. But she does find the safe house, and then there's Leia, and this is where I felt like Leia's force came into play. They're in the tunnel, and she's talking to Tala about, you need to go help him. And he's like, no, he'll be fine. She says, no, he won't be. Like, and Leia says that definitively. No, he will not be. Like, no, he won't be. And I wonder if, again, did she have some foresight into that, right? She may not know it, but just the feeling, that overwhelming feeling that, no, he's not going to be okay, and that he is going to need somebody there. I really feel like that is the Force intervening, or she's connecting with the Force in that way and able to see that. And I wouldn't say she went. I mean, I don't think she used the Force to make Tala finally go. I think Tala probably sensed something very sincere and very real, or had her own. Maybe she's force sensitive. We don't know, but she definitely felt like there was something there enough that she's going to listen to this 10-year-old that's telling her to go and run down the tunnel all by herself.
Right. I think that Tala probably sees that Obi-Wan is not the same Obi-Wan Kenobi that she's probably heard stories about.
Right.
And that he is not up for this fight. And yeah, he's going to need all the help he can get. I mean, it turns out they were all right. So, but yeah, I think it was very much that she just knows he's not the same person he was. At least in this moment, he's not that person.
Yep. There's we cut back over to a very scared Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's kind of walking, looking around all over the place, can't figure out where Vader's coming from. I was getting echoes of the throne room from Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Right. Same kind of,
and like the boogeyman too.
Yeah.
You're just looking around the corners. You don't know where he's going to be. And then you come around and you see the figure just standing there.
Yeah.
And there's just no escape.
His lightsaber was so bright too. Like, if you've ever turned a light on like that, it almost limits your ability to see, like, if it's that bright, So it
Right.
could have given Vader.
That's why you hold
the
it to the
advantage.
ground, not in front of your face.
Yeah, or high above you, so that it shines down, not directly in front of
Right.
you. But yeah, it was almost like he was blinded by the light, which I thought was kind of symbolic, right? Or maybe ironic, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, Vader comes in, and this is where we get our fight. And again, this is not, I don't believe in my heart of hearts, this is the fight. There's going to be another fight, a bigger fight, a better fight later down the road. But this was not a fight. This was Vader toying with his prey. This was if you've ever had an animal bring you a half alive animal, a dog bringing you a half alive animal that they've just been toying with, it's essentially what this was. He's sitting there one handed, wailing away at Kenobi, and Kenobi is just on the defensive. I mean, he's on his knees at one point. There's a moment there where he slashes 3 times, and you can't help but think of, again, Return of the Jedi, when Luke slashes down on Vader, kind of in that same position, that prone position, holding up that one lightsaber with both hands, or one hand at that point, trying to defend himself. But this was not a fight at all. This was Vader toying with him, and we get to see more of that a little bit later on. But I think what really struck me was just how weak Obi-Wan was, and the line following that is, "The years have made you weak," is what Vader says. But yeah, we definitely see I guess an Obi-Wan who's physically weak, weak in the Force. Everything that we've talked about, where he is right now in his connection with the Force and his abilities, all kind of came to a head here in this moment.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, you could just tell Obi-Wan doesn't want to fight. I mean, he's when he pulls out his lightsaber the first time, it's almost like he doesn't know what to do with it, or he just doesn't want to turn it on. He's fighting himself as much as anything else. And I think some of it's this disbelief that this is Anakin. This can't be Anakin. But clearly it is, and he's just completely lost all train of basically of sane thought in this moment, of like what to do and how to defend himself. It's almost like all of his training has just come completely out of the window, and he's just in straight. You brought up like an animal, but yeah, it's like basically in survival mode, right? And so basically, you just do whatever you can to fend it off, and you scramble away and you run away, and until you run out of places to run. But the years have made you weak. I think also the years have made Vader strong. He's hunted Jedi. He's fought other people. The Emperor has continued to sculpt Vader into this fighting machine as well.
Yeah.
That has fewer weaknesses than when Obi-Wan faced Anakin on Mustafar, I guess, when he faced Vader the first time on Mustafar. And so I think that's also the difference, and Vader's been crafting all of this at the same time that Obi-Wan has been letting it all go and is trying to forget about it.
And that I think that bodes well for us as an audience, because
when the light switch comes on, my expectations for that final fight have risen considerably.
Yeah.
And my expectations were already fairly high, but now my expectations are very high as to what we are going to see.
Oh, mine are unrealistic.
Climax.
Mine are unrealistic.
I don't think you're wrong in having that any kind of unrealistic expectation at this point, though, given what we saw here.
Yeah.
Like, for him to come back, Obi-Wan's got to have a huge light bulb moment up to where he finally clicks in and something drives him to drive Vader back to where we get those infamous quotes in A New Hope.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to take
He can't get lucky. He can't get lucky, right?
Right. Yeah, it's going to take a montage. That's the only thing that's going to bring him back is a montage at this point.
It might be.
With Survivor in the background, too. It has to be Survivor. It can't be any other band.
Can't be Journey.
Survivor. Can't be Journey. Nope. Sorry. I mean, maybe Don't Stop Believing. I mean, I guess you could work that in, right? But
it's always a good one.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, that fight, the expectations are unrealistic because, like, to your point, they're so despairing in terms of where they are, right? There are polar opposites and complete opposites in terms of where they are with their powers and how Obi-Wan gets to that level. He's got to rise to that level. I mean, it's a montage. I don't know. Seriously, I don't know what is going to happen, but the expectations of how he comes around are high, and that final battle, I suspect, will be 30 minutes long. Right? It's going to be pretty epic because you're right. They've got a lot of holes to fill, I guess, or not really holes to fill, but if they're going to if they're going to stay true to the context of that conversation or the conversations that have been had in A New Hope and in Return of the Jedi, there's some pretty big stuff that needs to happen still. So
We
how
could
we get
just
there, I don't know.
we could just turn on the Cantina Cast intro music. That's enough to get your blood pumping.
There you go. We could do that.
That's what we need. We need an epic Cantina Cast montage for Obi-Wan that shows him rising from the depths. We're gonna make this when after the final episode. We're gonna put all this to the Cantina Cast music.
Yeah,
and we're gonna make this a reality.
all right.
You've been challenged.
No, you're doing this. You're going to do this. I'm not.
Oh,
doing this. I don't have time for this. I'm working on ship videos over here with Ray and Kylo.
With Tala and Voss.
And Tala and Voss, right? Speaking of Tala, she gives Leia a hug, which Leia hugs are the best. I can't believe it. And by the way, what I meant to say about the 10-year-olds, like if you've ever had a 10-year-old or you've spoken to a 10-year-old, there have been a lot of people that have said, "Oh, she's too smart. She's too witty." No, this is what they are. If you've ever watched, there was a whole television show, a game show called "Are You Smarter Than a fifth grader?"
Fifth grader, yeah.
Right. At age 10, this is what they do. They ask a lot of questions. They're super intelligent. They're very intuitive.
And they know everything.
They know everything. They remember everything. They remember everything you said and will hold it against you for the next 5 to 10 years. This is what 10-year-olds do. So, and all I want to say is she is this character. I forget the actress's name that's playing Leia, but yes, she's playing Leia to a T, but she's also playing a 10-year-old to a T, which I think is perfect. And I love that she's giving Kenobi a run for his money, because if there's anybody that deserves, this kind of a relationship, that dude, dished it out in spades in the Clone Wars and everywhere else, right? So he was the king of sass, and now he's got it coming right back to him. So, anyways, that's all I want to say about Leia. I don't want to not say that, because I don't think we're going to bring her back up here very much in that context at this point. Okay, we go back to the fight, and this is where they were. This is the moment where he's slashing down 3 times that we talked about, and then we get the line of "You should have killed me when you had the chance," which again is very
at a Black
dark.
Label Society moment,
Yeah.
because that's part of a song.
Yeah.
Should have killed me when you had the chance.
Yeah, Jonesy will play that later for you.
I will.
But only the bass part. Or do you know the lead guitar part on that?
Yeah, I know everything.
Okay. I don't want to. I'm just asking. We got Ben slashing at the I don't know what it was, but again, that reminded me of Empire Strikes Back with I guess sand is a bad thing for Vader, so is smoke and fog.
Right.
It was enough to get away. But again, there's nothing like Vader never feels threatened at all. Like he is in
he's just
complete
stalking.
control.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is stalking his prey at this point.
Well, he knows that Obi-Wan has nowhere to go. And I think Stephanie made a comment in the chat, for so much metal, sure does seem to move pretty fast, or, shouldn't be able to move that fast. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, how in the world did someone made mostly of metal and in bulky outfit move that fast?
It's the Force. Uses the Force. That is how the Force works. But, I mean, it's just that he knows Obi-Wan's got nowhere to go. And of all things, Vader has learned patience. And he knows when he's got the rat cornered. And he's just going to savor and enjoy that fear. He's just feeding off of Obi-Wan this entire time. So he could just continue to, very horror movie like, you just continue to stalk your prey because there's nowhere they can go.
Yep, he just keeps showing up too. There is they cover so that we've covered it. Reva, this is where she looks at that Jedi symbol and kind of got this look of disgust on her face. And then she realizes that she's going to go after Leia, right? She kind of puts 2 and 2 together. And there's been people asking, how did she get down the tunnel so fast? Well, she didn't get down the tunnel fast. She realized that they were probably trying to go to a port, and this probably led to a port nearby. And so she just put 2 and 2 together and went the other way. She didn't have to go through the tunnel system. She could just take a direct route to the port and be ready for Leia when she came out on the other side. Okay, but let's talk about Vader's sick burn here.
I see what you did there.
There's so many jokes about this, but I don't know what those crystals were. I'm wondering if those are like Ventrium crystals.
Those are the Vitrium crystals.
Okay, yeah. So he knocks over one of those barrels. They fall everywhere, and this is again this would never have happened with Obi-Wan. He would never have been caught in like a force paralysis like that, which is a very Jedi trait. The Sith actually do it with lightning in Legends, but same kind of concept, right? He's keeping him paralyzed in some way with the Force. And if somebody's really in tune with the Force and they've got their lightsaber out, there's a whole thing on how that should never have happened. That shouldn't happen. You can't just go around doing that to people unless you've got an advantage of some sort. But he very easily does that. And of course, this is the scene where he ignites the crystals with his lightsaber and then drags Obi-Wan through the fire. Which I posted today. I was going to make the intro through the flames and fire. I think Jeff was waiting for that. It's a Dragon Force song. I think that's Obi-Wan's theme song now. But talk about brutal in what he's doing. He is doing the same thing that was done to him, right? And to some extent, he's putting him through what he went through. He's wanting to feel what he felt. And he's in complete control. He could have left him there to burn. He didn't. He force pushes him out of the fire before he extinguishes the fire. But this is all part of a big game for him. He's probably thought about this for years and years.
He's planned all the ways that he's going to torture him.
Yeah, and this is probably one of many. And so he's savoring this moment, which I think, not to jump ahead, but a lot of people have been asking, so why did he let him go? Why didn't he just go? Yeah, he could have walked through the fire. He's that suit is can do all kinds of cool stuff in the comic book. He could have, jumped up and used the Force to carry him over.
He could have force extinguished all the flames. He did.
Extinguished the fires, but he didn't. Right? He allowed Kenobi to leave because, again, this is what animals do. That's what monsters do. This is what the bad guys do. They allow their prey to leave so that they can continue to stalk them and make them suffer, make them feel pain, and all that stuff as well. But
right. He doesn't believe Obi-Wan has anywhere to go at this point. Mm-hmm. There's nowhere he can escape. He finally has him in his sight. And now what was interesting, though, is we say all that because I firmly believed that at one point, but then afterwards it's, all of the chatter and everything in the scene was, he got away, and then, but I think Vader wouldn't have just let him get away.
No.
He knows there's chum in the water, and Vader isn't going to lose the scent at this point.
No, he's not. He, again, 100% purposeful that he allowed that to happen. The lines too is, now you will suffer, Obi-Wan, is what he tells Obi-Wan before he starts pulling him to the fire there.
Yeah, that was...
he says, your pain has just begun, right? This is one of many steps that he plans on taking. I thought it was, I'm interested now that, because you look at his right arm is really badly burnt,
right?
And it's probably nothing Bacta can't fix.
Right.
But I don't know how much they're trying to explain. Again, it's going to be, where does this put Kenobi going into that final fight? Not only does he have to overcome the fear and his disconnected with the Force, or is in attunement with the Force in some way, but now he's got these physical ailments that he's got to overcome as well, and being scorched and burned. So I don't know how much time is going to lapse between now, this fight, and the fight that's to come, but it's something else he's going to have to contend with in some way.
Yeah, there was something I wanted your opinion about, though. When Vader's dragging him through the flames, did those screams sound really familiar to you?
Oh, I didn't listen to that.
Yeah, if you listen to the way that Obi-Wan is screaming, it sounds actually eerily similar to how Anakin was screaming on Mustafar.
Huh.
Yeah, and so I don't know if that was intentional, or if that was Ewan McGregor's performance that was intentional, or if I'm just making connections. But you might go rewatch that tonight before you go to bed and just see if you hear them too. It's not all of it, but a big chunk of it really feels like it's very much imitating Anakin's screams when he was set ablaze.
Well, that would be pretty sick if they did that.
Which, again, poetry, right?
Yeah.
It rhymes. Even in the sick kind of ways, it rhymes.
It's like poetry. It rhymes. Yeah, no, that's actually pretty eerie if that's the case. I will. I mean, you can't tell me how to live my life, so I may not listen to that or watch that before I go to bed.
Oh, you're going to do it.
Okay, I'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah, coming full circle is what Lauren just said. That's exactly what's happening here. Everything's just coming full circle.
The circle is now complete.
Ooh, pow! Right there on the nose.
Or is it your failure? Whatever.
Quotes. There's so he finally, again, turns out the flames, and he says, "Bring them to me," which is hilarious because Vader feels like
he could literally pick him up with a force right there.
Yeah, he could pull him in.
I'm the stormtrooper. I'm like, you just did it yourself. Do it again.
But like, you think about it, he's not even worthy. Like in Vader's eyes, he's not even worthy of Vader doing that. He's sending the lowest person, this poor peon, to go bring him in because that's how he values Kenobi. That's how he sees how he sees Kenobi as just being that low of a low person that only a stormtrooper is gonna, it's insulting in some way, probably in his own head, but
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, and then of course Tala saves him. She gets that shot off. I love that Vader never flinches when there's like blaster fire going on. And he can't. I mean, that suit again is impervious to blasters and all kinds.
Even when he does, he just
he just turns around, and looks. Like
it just slowly turns over.
Yeah, minor inconvenience, or maybe. But he allows him to escape with Ned. We didn't talk about Ned. I don't
Ned
like
B.
the theory that Ned is somebody in a costume. Have you heard this theory?
No.
Yeah, some folks are saying because at one moment, sorry, we'll come back to this in just a second, but at one moment when Ned is standing there and he's got the hammer, the way he's holding the hammer and the way he's gripping it and adjusting is a humanistic trait and not something a droid would do. And so there's all kinds of theories as to who this could be under the suit, and the fact that he, quote, very conveniently doesn't talk because he is a droid. I've heard everything from clones of some sort, right? Because their voice is so well known that they don't want to talk, although didn't do anything for the clone trooper that was the beggar in the last episode.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really on board with this. I like the fact that he's just a droid.
Yeah, I think he's just a droid.
Okay. We'll go with that. And if we're wrong, then we'll just edit this out and say we were right.
Sure.
But Ned takes him out and carries him away.
Stormtroopers living up to the billing of being terrible shots.
Yeah, they can't. Well,
But they couldn't see through the flames.
Yes. If you turn the subtitles on, it's just a lot of banter of, I can't see anything. Oh, the flames are too high. I mean, it's literally, that's what they're saying, even though you can't hear them.
Funny moment, though, if you look at the one who's, like, if you're looking at Vader, so, the screen's pointed at Vader, just to his left, there's a stormtrooper, and he's holding the blaster like this. Like, right in front of him.
Yeah.
Just, like, standing there like this. It's the... Yeah,
he
that
just got
stormtrooper.
Enlisted the day before, and prior to that, he was working at a bank. So
He's just glad he's got the right end pointed out, right?
Exactly. Oh, those guys. So let's see.
This is a good time to remind everyone, if you're listening to the podcast, we also do a live stream where you can see what I'm doing with my hands.
With your hands. He's doing pew-pew motions with his hands. There's a moment there. Okay, so they get away. The fifth brother then makes a comment about, "Oh, we're never going to find him now," which I think for the most part is true. Like if you think about it, from his
and this is the
perspective-
line that I was confused about because I thought Vader was not letting them go. He's like, "Oh, there's just nowhere you can run or hide." But now the fifth brother's like, "Oh man, all's lost. Oh, got to give up. Going home. Got to go back to Nur."
I think from the fifth brother's perspective, yes, the trail is gone. There's something Vader knows something. I don't know what it is yet. I mean, of course we got Reva now. There's the leverage there. She's got Leia.
Oh yeah, she's got Leia. So yeah.
So there is a way they can get Kenobi to come out, right? They can snuff him out. We've already seen 2 examples of this, and you're going to bet that he's going to come step forward or step up to go save Leia at this point. Like he's already failed his job. Unfortunately, I hate that. I'm not trying to be funny, but Bail Organa's like, you're the only person I trust with my child. And then he makes that phone call right now. He's like, how's everything going? Slight problem, sir.
Yeah. But don't worry. Oh, the connection's bad. Let me call you right back.
Must be an invasion. But yeah, no, he's got to step up because he failed his only job. He had one job. That was to get Leia back. And now she's gone from a bad situation to an incredibly worse situation because she's now under, or is she? Like, here's the thing. Do you think that Reva is going to tell Vader that she has Leia? Do you think she's going to? Because I can see a scenario where she doesn't. Like, if she's all about, if she feels like she's got a vendetta and she wants to get Obi-Wan and kill Obi-Wan, right? She's already made that commitment to him. Does Vader even know at this point? Will he know? He's got to know that Kenobi's out there, but does he have to know that Leia has been kidnapped?
Yeah, that's a really good question and I don't know the answer to that one because you can think that this is a way for Reva, again, trying to pursue her own agenda would really rub Vader in the wrong way. And it would be, he would not enjoy having information withheld. Now, granted, the other side of that coin says that he doesn't care unless it's about Kenobi specifically. And we have seen Vader be very singular thought focused and lose sight of the bigger picture about what in more of a strategic type of fashion. But for her, it makes sense. I mean, for her to kidnap Leia, and to take her to, potentially to Nur. This could be how we get out to Nur, because we know that Obi-Wan's trying to get off of that rock. And so this very much could be the way that we get there, but does she tell Vader though? I mean, that's a really good question, because I'm going to guess that she probably does not.
She doesn't have to, I guess, is my point, right?
Yeah.
And she could withhold that information and use it to her own advantage. And I think
to lure Obi-Wan to her.
Exactly.
And then again, be more on the one upside of taking the credit of either killing Obi-Wan. She better not kill Obi-Wan, or I think that she can, because Vader would be pissed.
Yeah. No, this is a whole Markion Row kind of thing, right? Where kill is mine.
Kill. Right.
That's my star space station that I want to take down. Nobody better interfere with that.
Right.
So, yeah, apparently she's going to take her somewhere. I fully expect, based on the trailers, that she's going to take her to Nur.
Seems like it.
Which would be really cool. Especially if we get like a Quinlan Vos that shows up. It's not just one Jedi. It could be a couple. I don't know. Could be a couple. It could be, there are rumors that we would get some Saw Gerrera stuff. Some of the,
that seems unlikely at this point.
Yeah, I don't know how they would enter, unless O'Shea Jackson Jr. is not playing Voss, and instead he is playing a what are they called? I keep forgetting the name now. They're not pacifiers. What's their name? Anyways,
you keep talking. I'll look at it.
Yeah, so Saw Gerrera's group, Bob Saget. I can't think of the name. But it could be one of them. So maybe we get Rebel, potentially future Rebel people coming in and helping out. But if we do go back to Nur. I'm pretty excited about it. And here's the other thing too. We've already seen, with the exception of two minor clips, I think two minor segments of the clips from the trailer, we've seen all the footage that was in the trailers. So from here on out, which is pretty exciting if you think about it, from here on out is going to be the Partisans. Thank you. And it was a P. But yeah, from here on out, this is all brand new stuff that we've not seen before. So I'm really excited about what we got. Yeah. Again, there's a couple things in there that, we know are going to happen, but yeah, this is all new footage.
Yeah, we're halfway there, and now we've got more or less a blank slate in front of us, and that's pretty exciting to not know where it is. And again, I'm kind of surprised that Leia's, hung around this long too, and she keeps being an interesting and vital part of the story, not only as a MacGuffin or something to keep things moving. Mm-hmm. But also to really pull these emotional moments out of Obi-Wan, and to have these moments of self-reflection, as well as, you could learn more about him in the same process, like the family that we talked about earlier. So I think that's really, it's been a pleasant surprise that having a child, involved throughout the episode is not dragging the story down at all, or slowing it down. I think maybe less so dragging, but just slowing it down. And feeling like it's catering to something else. Like, no, it really still does feel like Obi-Wan, and now as much as any other time before it, I think.
Yeah, I wonder too. Like, so, a lot of it, I think it's both ways. I think it's doing a lot for Kenobi. I think it's doing a lot for Leia too, and I think they're building a pretty good case so far of why
you're seeing that leadership aspect of her, and I don't remember the actress's name either, but she's. As far as that aspect of it, she is nailing the character of that leadership and that boldness and that directive, being able to give orders and do it confidently. She's nailing that aspect of the character.
Yeah, I wasn't going that deep. I was going to say she's making a case as for why she names her child Ben.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
We've still got more story to go, but she's not going anywhere. And, she seems like she's going to ride this out at least for another episode or two, so another part or two. So yeah, I think there's this is all kind of building that case as to why she would go forward, why she would name her kid Ben, when really up until now the only
it was associated with Luke.
It was exactly. It's like, how do we know her? Her dad. If you think about it from the context of the original trilogy, her dad knew him, and Luke talked about him, and yet she would go on to name her child Ben. I mean, I think they did a good job in Legends as to how that came about, but this gives it.
Well, in Legends, it made more sense because Luke named his kid Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it makes more. I think it does. It
Yeah,
bodes well.
I agree. Yeah,
for
it's really
filling those holes. Yeah.
lining that up. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So where does Tala take Kenobi at this point? I think we've had a bunch of questions here, but we've already discussed them. So I guess the only two we haven't talked about is where does Tala take Kenobi?
I guess it depends on when they find out that Leia's missing. Do they actually go to Jabim, or do they go to Jabim and then they learn, and then they've got to figure out where they took Leia, or what?
Yeah.
How quickly can they do back to spray to get Obi-Wan back up and running?
Yeah, I mean they got Din fixed up pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, I mean literally IG-11 sprayed it on him and he was good to go in about 10 minutes.
Yep. Fast acting to acting.
That's a deep cut, John Madden.
Yeah.
Boom.
Okay. Boom. All right. Well, I think we'll end it there. I mean, this is now 2 hours and 15 minutes. I apologize. Longer.
Well done, sir.
Thank you. Working as intended. So yeah, thanks to everybody that we are going to end it here. There's still a lot to discuss. From this, we will likely do a breakout Patreon show. We covered a couple different topics that we could probably do that on. We've also got a number of stuff that we want to still cover from the backlog of items that we brought up from Celebration, including all the trailers and, all the trailers, really.
Yeah.
We've got Shadow of the Sith coming out here very soon. We still need to talk about Brotherhood, which we've not had a chance to do. I don't know how we're going to do this. I think we're going to be recording a show every single night. And tonight, I am going to open this sucker up. So this is the High Republic's limited edition set that was at Star Wars Celebration.
Yes.
And I'm going to record that video tonight.
I'm so excited for you to actually open it.
I know.
Touch it and open the books. Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about this, honestly.
I can't wait to watch this video, folks.
So all that said, we've got a lot of content still coming. So please like and subscribe on YouTube so that way you guys don't miss any of these episodes and you know that you'll get the notifications. What else do we want to say?
Let's do some shout outs. Yeah, let's do some shout outs. Jay Reyna, Ken, Jonathan, J Dubs, Music Train, Steph, Lauren, Dante, Neil Sega, Christopher Gassler. Hey, Chris, thank you so much for having your daughter come out. You made some comments earlier. I believe he's chaperoning a prom or something tonight, but he had his daughter come out and meet us at Celebration during the podcast stage and do a picture and stuff like that. It was really awesome to have her come out there and meet us. Twan, Leland, Risk, Katya, Richard, Diego, Hardcountered, Jorge, and of course, Alex. Thank everyone for coming out. We had an awesome turnout tonight for the live stream. And if you are listening to the podcast, we do live stream this a couple times a week, usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. And with Kenobi coming out, we will be probably very busy on the live stream. So trying to catch up, as Albert was saying before. So certainly want to invite you to come out. And if you have a question what we're doing, cantinacast.com/events. Once we get the schedule start to formulate here a bit, which we will work on a little bit more this weekend. And if we sneak any other new shows in, we will certainly let you know there as well as on social media.
Great job. For off the cuff. Okay. We're going to end it there. And as promised, I've got the new credits. Apologies to our $15 tier folks. I haven't had the chance to update that, but it's coming. So stay tuned. We are going to record some more shows this weekend, as Jonesy and I have discussed. So lots more to come. Any final words before we go?
Nope. Punch it. We will see everyone in a few days.
Okay. See you then.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.